right. Well, welcome everyone. You all know me. I'm Sarah Griffin, acting chair of the Greenway Conservancy. And do we need this? We do? Oh, right. Okay, fine. All right. So what we always do is stand up and say the Pledge of Allegiance. So if we could. There's the flag behind there. You can see it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right. So, the other order of business, I feel so out of my element without Barney to do this, but I guess I will take the charge and just have everybody go around the room and say who they are. Bill.
Bill Gordon, New York State Department of Transportation.
Jane Daniels, Conservancy Board Member. Diane Lundell, Department of Environmental Conservation.
Frankfurt, the Hudson River Boat Yacht Club Association.
Lavonda, Rensselaer County Council Member. Jennifer Schwartz-Berkeley, Conservancy Board.
Oh, yes, Betsy.
Betsy Jacks, Thomas Cole National Historic Site.
Steve Rosenberg, seated Hudson.
Cindy Lanzetta, Conservancy Member.
Brian Rooney, Department of Agriculture and Markets.
Katie Brown, Conservancy Member.
Scott Keller, Greenway staff. Marcus Stiglione, Greenway staff.
Sally Mazzarella, Member of the Council.
And then back here, Peter.
Peter Fairweather Consulting.
Alan King, Town Marlborough Council.
Steve Osborne, Town of Marlborough Supervisor.
Rosemary Wine, Town Marlborough volunteer.
Mary Kay Verba, Dutchess County Tourism.
All right, welcome. So, again, as Mark said, this is going to be a very accelerated business meeting because we have a huge amount to accomplish after. I hope everyone is staying for this such important part of the life of the Greenway in terms of developing a strategic plan, which has been we've been in meetings since September, but this is a crucial part for the entire board to take to get involved and to try to help us develop priorities for the next 5 to 10 years. So we will, but on the other hand, there are incredibly important things happening. If you had a chance to look at the grants that were enabled this quarter, I don't know about you, but given this dreary weather that just keeps hanging on us, somehow the number of grants given to historic sites, to communities, just gives you this sense of new possibilities that are going to unfold this year. And for me, it felt very much like the harbinger of spring that the weather is not allowing us to feel. So unfortunately, we won't be able to really delve into all of it, but I understand that there'll be more public ceremonies and all that to celebrate all these great grants. So with that, I will just formally ask for an agenda review and any board member comments on the agenda. Hearing none. Oh, yes.
I want to make a reminder to people, I know it's really late in the game, but the Senate has pulled from the budget funding $92.5 million for capital projects. And so PTNY is the forefront. You don't know who to contact the state senator. I know a lot of us have smartphones, so they get a quick phone call to the office and said, hey, you guys have got to put that money in. Here's the money, capital budgets. Goes back into the local community because these are jobs that are generated to take care of state parks. And we urge people to, if you haven't done so, to reduce all your state senator those.
Right, I think it all has to be put to bed tonight, so today is the day to do that. But I will say that there is an amendment, there's an amended portion of the agenda that deals with amendments to certain amounts of certain grants. So just to note that in the agenda. Then on the minutes for both the combined meetings of the Conservancy and the Council, hopefully everyone's had a chance to read them, and the issue is whether there are any questions, any amendments, or if there's a call to approve the combined minutes. All right, Sally first and Jane second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, the minutes are are carried. And I think that also includes the grants. Okay. All right. So then we will move to having Sally will explain some procedural elements of moving forward with the council agenda.
Good morning, everyone. As noted, Barney was not able to be here this morning, and I think maybe it has something to do with our ages that maybe they thought it wouldn't be noticed. Anyway, according to Robert's rules, whether you're chair or president and you're not able to attend a meeting, the vice chair or the vice president steps in, or even the secretary. But Greenway is missing those positions, and so we're in a unique position today where a motion is needed so I could serve as chairman pro tem for this morning's meeting.
Sally, I would like to move that you serve as our pro tem leader.
Thank you. We have a second. All in favor? Well, thank you very much. So now I can participate and carry out the meeting. So I will call the council meeting to order, as Barney usually does. And the first thing I have is a resolution here. So many of us know that Clara Lugold has made a tremendous impact, not only on her own community, Dutchess County, the region, and New York State. And so many of us are thankful for her many, many contributions. And so we do have a proclamation today commending Clara Lugold for her distinguished service to the board of the Hudson River Valley Greenway Communities Council. And it reads, whereas Clara Lugold was appointed to the Greenway Council on the 16th of October 2000 by the Dutchess County Executive, and whereas Clara was appointed a member of the Greenway Grants Committee, and she has faithfully attended the meetings and aided the Greenway in the selection of grants, and whereas Clara has provided the citizens of the Hudson River Valley with her time, effort, and dedication, and whereas Clara has retired as a Greenway Council board member, now therefore be it resolved, the joint boards of the Hudson River Valley Greenway do hereby pause in their deliberations to honor and commend Clara Lugold for her years of service to the communities and citizens of the Hudson River Valley Greenway, and be it further resolved that a copy of this proclamation be provided to Clara Lugold by the Hudson River Valley Greenway as a symbol of appreciation. And this is adopted March 28, 2014. So I will ask for a motion for this proclamation. We have a motion, and do we have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you so much. And it's too bad that Clara couldn't be with us here this morning, but she is so well deserving. Just a note, and I will ask Mark to come up. There have been amendments to previous grants, and Mark will be reporting on them.
I have to find my spreadsheet with the amended amounts. Now, could you read that, Sally?
No, not in even an earlier lifetime.
Okay, so the Greenway receives $136,000 to award by the Communities Council for community projects every year. And we try to apportion that money equally according to our quarterly board meetings. So we budget a particular amount per board meeting. That means we typically have a budget of about $33,000 to award each board meeting, which means We typically receive over $125,000 worth of requests, so we have to significantly reduce grant awards. Well, this time we came to the end of the year. We did not receive a lot of grant applications for our last board meeting, which means we had about $18,000 left over. And in my years in state service, I've always learned it's a good policy not to leave any money on the table when you come to the end of the fiscal year. So the Grants Committee has decided to recommend to increase the amounts of grants that we awarded in January for worthy projects that we had to reduce. So I'll just briefly go through those and describe the project and the increased amount. So the January grants that we're proposing to increase, the Village of Mamaroneck, they want to do a real estate market analysis for redevelopment of an industrial area. We're proposing to increase their grant award from $6,500 to $9,000. The next one is the town of Clarkstown for the Rockland Farm Alliance. This is to do a really innovative agricultural project. It's the first CSA in Rockland County. They're looking to piece separate parcels together so that they can achieve the minimum acreage required for an agricultural assessment on parcels that are not necessarily contiguous to one another, so that they can expand their CSA operation. That's an increase from $5,000 to $9,000. The Village of Nyack, they want to do a green action plan. That's an increase from $5,000 to $7,250. The town of Hurley, they're doing an open space plan. We're increasing it from $5,000 to $5,725. And finally, the town of Marlborough for their comprehensive plan update, and we're proposing to increase that amount from $5,000 to $7,450. That's all of them? Okay. So that's all the updated ones, right? No, I didn't remember.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to accept those amendments to those grants. We have a motion here. A second, please. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Yes?
Even though I'm on the Conservancy, I just want it noted that I recuse myself from voting on this.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, Mark, we now have the Greenway Community Grants. Will you do that report for us, please?
Okay. As I mentioned, we had a few grant applications this time, so I'll go through them relatively quickly. The City of Albany and Albany County, they requested some funding to do a natural resource inventory for the Buckingham Pond area of the city. We're recommending funding at the $82,075 level. This grant award will be conditioned on receiving closeout information from a previous grant award that's being hosted by the city. So that action is not necessarily reflected in the resolution, but that's the question that's on the table. So just amending the resolution to condition the award on receiving paperwork for the previous grant that remains open for the City of Albany. The next one is the town of Rensselaerville in Albany County for the Helderberg Brew Shed Farm Brewery Incubator Project. And this is essentially a import substitution project because they recognize that there are a lot of microbreweries in the Hudson River Valley, but nobody's growing hops or barley. So they want to encourage farmers to grow local hops and barley, and they also want to encourage farmers to brew beer on their farms. And this is a pilot project they're establishing in partnership with the Cary Institute for Global Good in Rensselaer. On your agenda, it says the amount is $82.75, but after deliberations this morning, we are increasing the amount to $10,000 for the project. And finally, our Greenway Compact grant for the town of North Castle in Westchester County. They're undertaking a comprehensive plan update. They plan to use a technology platform for public input called MindMixer. It's really a robust platform to do that. They requested $7,800, and the Grants Committee is recommending $7,800.
Thank you very much, Mark. So again, I'll entertain a motion to accept the grant approvals here. We have a motion, please. Thank you. And I'm sorry. Betsy. Okay, a second, please. Thank you very much. All those in favor? I should say any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very, very much. And now, Sarah, you're back on the agenda.
Again, moving quickly, you can see that the agenda for the Conservancy is at a bare minimum, just to keep the process going. So I will call the meeting to order. Under announcements, we actually don't have any major Greenway announcements, so this would actually be an opportunity for anyone to give their own announcement. And if there's nobody at the moment, I will volunteer. Which is that, and this was Mark's suggestion, that I have some news, which is that after 25 years of being involved with Olana as the head, actually the founding head of the Olana Partnership, I am stepping down at the end of this year. That's the goal. I've announced it to my board, and I announced it in January, and a process is beginning to find a successor. It is just very, very bittersweet because I feel, Olana is part of my life. But it's a family decision, desire to spend more time down a little bit down south, but in the winter months. But you are not going to get rid of me. I am going to be spending, as much time as I can, fully involved in the works of the Hudson Valley, but just more in a consulting role as opposed to the 24/7 of working with this historic site. So just announcement of my own. Thank you. I know. Well, but anyway, since I got the ball rolling, anybody else have any announcements they want to make? No? Okay. All right. So anyway, so then we move to the Greenway water trail designations. And I don't know if Scott would like to say it, but I just want to steal the thunder a little bit because he just told me that with these two designations, we will be within striking distance of needing only 2 more water trail sites to complete the entire water trail of having a site every 10, 11 miles throughout the Hudson River. So that's just amazing. So let's hope that we can get these 2 going. Do you want to talk about them?
Thank you. The first site is, where'd it go? There it is. Echo Canoe Boat Launch in Croton on Hudson, Westchester County. And this was actually our friend Bob Elliott secured the funding for this as an environmental benefit settlement a number of years ago. The site is located at the end of Veterans Plaza, which is immediately south of the train station, and it provides access to the Croton River and at lower tide levels also to the Hudson River. So this is a neat site to have because it gets people into a different part of the river system that they don't get to see very often. So we're looking forward to that. And the next one is the one I'm really excited about. Mindock Park in the town of Marlborough. And that site is... The name's wrong? It's Milton Landing, isn't it? That's my fault. Milton Landing Park in the town of Marlborough, which is both a launch and we'll have 4 campsites as well, and that does fill one of our last critical gaps. And we have a number of folks here from Marlborough. Steve, would you like to, Steve Osborne, the supervisor, is here. Would you like to say?
Well, I'd just like to say we've been working on this a long time. A lot of different people in Marlborough, so I want to thank everybody that's been involved in getting to this point where we have this designated Greenway stop. We're very happy in Marlborough to have it, and sorry it took so long, but here we are. So better late than never.
Wow, this is wonderful. So am I to call for a motion then? All right, so I will call for a motion to have these 2 water trail designations put into effect. Did you want to say something?
I just want to say that in the 22 years that I've been on the Conservancy, it is really Scott Keller who put the energy, blood, sweat, and tears into the river trail itself. And to be within 2 more units is just an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah. On that. Oblique. Okay, that's your introduction to your motion. All right, so I'll count yours as a motion. And a second? Fran, okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I know this doesn't involve money. Do I have to disclose that I'm a Marlboro resident?
That's okay. It's,
Disclosure, we always welcome disclosure.
Well, I disclose it and I'm very happy about it.
good, good, all right.
Also, one of the reasons it got done, so that.
Wonderful. All right, so on that note, we will move on to the business of the National Heritage Area and call that meeting to order. And then we have the pleasure of very quickly announcing many grants that have been enabled this quarter, which I will let Mark take on from here.
So these heritage development grants come through our federal appropriation to manage the Hudson River Valley National Heritage Area. I'd like to thank the congressional delegation for supporting reauthorization of our federal funding authority through 2015. That reauthorization enabled us to provide this grant program, and we will also provide a similar grant program in the next fiscal year. It's a $50,000 matching grant program. Each one of these projects will have to match this grant dollar for dollar, either in cash or in-kind services. We have 14 projects throughout the Hudson River Valley that we're proposing funding for. And I'll just run through the list very briefly. The first one's the Albany Institute for History and Art. They're creating essentially an online booklet of their exhibition of the Hudson River School paintings that they're currently exhibitioning at the Albany Institute. If you haven't gone up there to see the paintings, they're one of the strongest collection of Hudson River School paintings in one collection in the country. So it's definitely impressive. $3,326 was requested, and that's what we're proposing to the board. The next one is the Columbia County Historical Society for the Van Allen House. Van Allen House is a great architectural example of Dutch architecture in the Hudson River Valley. It's not open an awful lot, so this grant will fund an interpretive sign, so if you go there when it's not open, you'll know what you're looking at. Makes a lot of sense to me. And it made a lot of sense to the Grants Committee, so they're recommending $2,249 for that project. The next one is for the historic St. Agnes Cemetery up in Albany. These historic cemeteries are significant not only for the people who are buried there, but also for the architectural principles and landscape design that they represent. And this project for St. Agnes Cemetery will connect people to that significance and that history. The next one is to historic Cherry Hill. They thankfully reached a milestone in funding so that they were able to survive a crisis over the summer. And we're continuing to support their efforts to put on the City of Albany's 15th Annual History Fair. They requested $5,000. We had to reduce it to $2,500, but we're still happy to help that project out. The next one is the Samuel Dorsky Museum of Art at SUNY New Paltz. This project is to fund various things related to exhibitions and database work that they need for their collections and planning. They requested $5,000. We're recommending funding for $2,425. The next one is for Friends of Schuyler Mansion, and their project is entitled Meet the Characters of Schuyler Mansion Video and Visitors Center Tour. This is the first time in over 20 years, and this is maybe a sad commentary in our state historic sites, that they've been able to update their visitor center video. And they're taking an innovative approach and telling the story of Schuyler Mansion, not through the people that necessarily lived in the mansion itself, but through the people that they would have encountered in the community. So it's an innovative project, and this will provide them with the seed money that they will then go out and use to raise more money to get a really well-done professional interpretive video for their visitor center. The next one is for the Historic Albany Foundation. They're going to develop an historic walking tour mobile phone app of the city of Albany. If you're an Albanian like myself, you know how much history is in Albany and how much of it is hidden in plain sight. And this project will help expose people to the history, I think, in a meaningful way, and leveraging technology to connect people more with the political history, the Dutch history, and really the cool and hidden gems that are in the city of Albany. They've requested $5,000, and we're recommending $4,500. Next one is the Putnam History Museum for a West Point Foundry permanent exhibition. And this is a really good bookend project in partnership with the West Point Foundry Cove, which is managed by Scenic Hudson. They mentioned the Cove, and they mentioned that they're working in partnership with with the folks at Scenic Hudson Foundry Preserve Park to provide a more robust interpretation at the Putnam History Museum of that particular site. They requested $5,000 and the Grants Committee is recommending $5,000. The next one is for the Dutchess County Department of History. The project is for exhibit collections training, and they titled it Hacking the Museum. They're particularly focused on the lower capacity sites in Dutchess County to help them understand what they have and help them think about new ways of connecting their collections with people at large in a more engaging way. The grants, they requested $5,000 and the Grants Committee is recommending $5,000 for the project. The next one is Kralo State Historic Site and Friends of Kralo. And this is for an exhibit, Understanding the Afro-Dutch Experience in New Netherland. I think that's a really interesting slice of our history in the Hudson Valley. And this project builds on a training program that the folks at Kralo were able to participate in that was put on by Harvard. There are only one of 7 sites in the country selected to participate in that, and this project is a direct implementation step of the ideas that came out of that training session at Harvard. So it's pretty cool. They requested $5,000 and the Grants Committee is recommending $5,000. The next one is for the Town of Hyde Park, the walking tour of the Town of Hyde Park Historic District. This walking tour is being developed by the Town of Hyde Park historian, who is also the former deputy superintendent of of our Franklin Roosevelt historic site here, Carol Cohn. This site will not only connect the many historic sites in the Town of Hyde Park, but it's also going to knit together a lot of the tremendous recreational resources of the town as well. She requested $2,500 and the Grants Committee is recommending $2,500 for the project. The next one is for the New Netherland Museum, the folks that run the historic Half Moon replica ship. And they're participating in a 3-day encampment that's going to happen in the Corning Preserve in the Albany area. And one of the issues that the Half Moon always has when it visits Albany is that they're relegated to dock behind the water treatment facility in the city of Albany. And this money will enable them to install the appropriate docking systems so that they can actually be someplace where people can see them, which I think is going to be a huge win for the city of Albany and what they're doing to interpret their history. They requested $5,000. The Grants Committee is recommending $5,000. Next one is for the Rensselaer County Historical Society. They're the folks that manage the Hart-Cluett Mansion, or the Hart-Cluett House as they call it, and they're going to bring history to the River Street Festival. And this demonstrates how scrappy historic sites need to be to market themselves. They recognize that Troy already puts on this huge River Street Festival that draws people from all over the Capital District and beyond. So this project exclusively focuses on marketing that piggybacks on that event to get people aware of what's going on at the Hart-Cluett Mansion that's right down the block. And it also helps them, because they're planning to do walking tours that correspond with the festival, to provide walking tour interpretation by purchasing a tablet so that they can do an architectural walking tour without having to mess with 3-ring binders and laminated pictures. They'll be able to scroll through pictures and show videos as they walk through the streets of Troy, which is much more engaging. They requested $1,500 and we're recommending $1,500. And finally, the Thomas Cole National Historic Site, and this is again to support their new exhibition, Master, Mentor, Master, Thomas Cole and Frederick Church. This thematically unites Alana Historic Site and the Thomas Cole House. This builds on an existing and robust partnership that the two historic sites have with one another and focuses on really exploring the relationship between Cole and Church. It's one of the great stories that we have in the Hudson River Valley, and the Cole House asked for $5,000 and the Grants Committee is recommending $5,000. And I think that's the whole list, right? All right, again, record time.
Very exciting to see. And it sort of ties in with the next item, which is the Path Through History weekends, which everyone should note and participate in. I think probably the grant release won't perhaps be in time to bolster this year's Path Through History, but it's all part of a growing momentum to strengthen the offerings of these historic sites and landscapes throughout the region, and it just it's this Path Through History project is just so important to provide a unifying force for this. So I learned good news from Mark. I know you probably all know that the Greenway was charged with administering the whole Path Through History for the entire state, right? More or less? Okay. But luckily, they've worked out a deal so that they don't have to do, they're playing more of an advisory role this year, and the Greater Hudson Heritage Network is doing more of the administration. So it looks like there's more help to bring to bear to make this Path Through History project that much more robust as it grows. I think it's the third year of its, hi, Kevin. Yeah. So sorry. Okay, moving back to call, I would like to call for a motion to approve the grants that were that Mark announced. All right, Kevin, I think I saw your hand first. Sally, second. Yes.
I just need to disclose that I just was hired by, probably an interim will receive these grants by Dorsey Helper in this collection this spring.
Okay.
I can recuse myself from that.
From that one. All right. Any other abstentions?
Excusing myself.
Okay. With that, yes.
Could I just make a comment? I think this is the best group of grants I've ever seen. You know, I think, I've always felt like the opportunity for the historic sites is to tell the American story. And so every single one of these grants is telling an American story. It's no longer about, you know, the teacup collection. It's really about broadening the sites as a destination that helps interpret America's history and the Hudson Valley's role in America. So I just want to compliment you. I think it's a fantastic group of grants.
And I think that's such a good point, and I think it's, you know, such credit goes to the Greenway for fostering this, but also to the heritage sites for recognizing, internalizing, and then asking for these grants that fit so well with that bigger picture idea that we've been trying to instill for many years. So great comment. All right, so so did we say all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And we have the abstentions. Okay, so motion carried. So I talked about the pathway, and then we have the Ramble, again, an incredible opportunity now extending through almost the entire month of September. So that just grows so much on the initiative that has been established over now. What years will this be?
It's going to be the 15th year.
15th, wow. All right, so it just keeps...
I just want to mention that Beth Campachero, she has a great sponsorship opportunity listing. If you know anybody who's interested in getting exposure by being associated with the Ramble, we've perfected sort of our sponsorship pitch, and Beth has the information that you need.
Great. Where does what price does sponsorship start?
Well, it could be an individual sponsorship as low as $25, but for more larger, $250, $5,000.
It goes up to $10,000.
Goes up to 10. So from $25 to, so there is something for everyone here. Okay, I think that's great. So see Beth. Okay, and then finally the training partnership, which is such an exciting program. Mary Kay, I know that there's several people involved in that. Mark, do you want to just share quickly what that's about and where we are with that?
Well, as Fran mentioned, it's so important to tell a story, an American story, and that's what this training partnership is all about. We're partnered with the local and regional Path Through History work group. They received a grant, and they're allocating $20,000 toward training. The Heritage area obviously has an interest in the training also, so we're contributing $20,000 in partnership with them. And the goal is to engage sites and provide tailored training to them so that they can reimagine the stories that they're telling and help them tell stories in a more engaging way. We know that there's a really broad universe of sites with varying capacities, so we're trying to target training based on sites' capacities. So the smaller capacity sites will have targeted training for those guys. The large capacity sites and more sophisticated sites are going to have tailored training for them as well, so that we hope in that we can provide something meaningful for the sites and also foster connections between them.
Great. Well, wonderful, wonderful initiative. I know from everyone I talked to, we're all clamoring to be part of it. We were disappointed that only 2 people from each site were allowed to be part, but then I heard there were 3, so there's lots of excitement going on at the site level. So anyway, it's great progress. So then we go up to your executive director report. I'm always amazed at how much you do. So this is just another testament to your accomplishments. We'd love to hear.
Well,
In the interest of time and understanding that you all have my executive director's report, the only thing I would like to do is just once again thank the staff, Beth Campachero, Celeste Roller, and Scott Keller for all the work that they do to make everything that you see here today happen. We're having a brief board meeting here, but we've just awarded something like 18 new grants, and I think Scott manages himself about 200 open grants at the moment, which takes a tremendous amount of work. He also manages all of the federal grants that we not only receive from other outside agencies, but also the grants that we award for the heritage area and all those other projects, which is a tremendous amount of work. Beth Campachero does pretty much everything else, and I'm just along for the ride. And Celeste Roller has really been a godsend to the organization because she's a quick learner and she jumped in with both feet, and she's every day she's contributing more and more to our organization. So won't you join me in thanking the Greenway staff?
Including you, Mark. Okay, so we just now have the opportunity for any new business, any public comment. Hello, Sarah. Yes.
So I just want to make sure everybody knows that the Heritage Area is teaching. Hudson Valley is working on its summer institute this year. It's all about using agricultural resources for teaching. It's called Teaching the Hudson Valley from the Ground Up. It's going to be a great session. So watch for that. Take a look at the new website.
Great. Yes, Mary Kay.
Well, we've got a lot going on in Dutchess County, and one of the big things is we're 30 years old this year, so we'll be celebrating 30 years as a tourism agency. And
Say it again, what's 30 years old?
30 year of Dutchess County tourism. 30 years we'll be celebrating. So we'll be having a bash that we're going to invite you all to, so we hope you'll join us at our, I think it's going to be at our new premier conference space, which is at the Marriott Center at the CIA, which is an 800-seat conference space facility. It's phenomenal. So we'll be looking for doing that in May, so we hope that you'll all join us. But also on June 14th and 15th, there will be a Civil War reenactment out at Unionvale, or Timemore Park in Unionvale. So mark your dates for that. Then on the 22nd, I also would invite you because the Great Race is coming through Dutchess County. We're the only stop in New York. This is 100 vintage cars that are racing from Algonquin, Maine to the villages in Florida. They'll be coming in June 22nd in the evening down to the waterfront. You can come down, take your pictures with the cars, talk to the drivers. Last year they raced from St. Paul, Minnesota to New Orleans. And so look up greatrace.com and get more information on that. The following week, which will be the 22nd to 29th, if you're a bicyclist, join us for Discover Hudson Valley Ride. We're working with Bike New York, and there should be over 2,500 cyclists on the roads in Dutchess, Ulster, and Columbia. So please look out for them. If they need any help, stop and ask them. And bring out your bike as well and ride. And then the following week, I challenge you all to dragon boat races on the Hudson River. July 4th, 5th, and 6th will be the fireworks, hot air balloon festival, and dragon boats in an Asian festival on July 5th down at the river. So get your team together. You only need 16 on a team. The boats are 60 feet long. We're going to have some fun. So come and join us and help us celebrate all year long.
Okay, so just our last order of business is to let you all know about the next board meetings. The one in June is a bit to be determined. There may be a little bit of a scheduling issue, but it's a placeholder for now of June 11th, but then October 8th. And so I guess we won't adjourn but this will close this portion of the business, and then we are moving into the centerpiece of today's meeting, which is strategic planning. Yes.
We are a small group, and we are very spread out. And it might be that we need to collapse some of the tables so that we would be able to interact a little bit better. I think it's, hi there, Kitty. Oh,
Absolutely, we'll do that.
Which is moved down the town.
Okay. I think that makes sense, but yes, maybe Peter Fairweather is here to lead us in this process. You may have some ideas about how we may want to structure ourselves.
That was a great suggestion. The idea of getting closer together is a really good one.
All right, folks, grab your coffee. It's going to be a fun day.
5 gallons, so.
Go Marlboro.
I can't believe it.
So I just wanted to
Okay.
Oh, no, I actually put it on the map.
Start maybe diagonal.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, my comments that I made the other night were to point of view of, it was because the board had said, we want to, for economic development reasons, we want to have this. I would understand your concern as well, but I wasn't very anxious.
Well, I guess I would just ask you to explain the process. You are talking
Well, and I don't know that we have as much influence as we would like to have. I would think they sort of tailed on because they have a water problem and they can't get water from the north-south. So I'm thinking maybe in our point of view is that's good for Marlboro because we can bring more infrastructure up to Marlboro. I'm not really commenting on the merits of the project. I mean, I was doing that last meeting for his
Is that better? Okay, that'll work. So anyway, and the approach we've been using to address those questions is this idea of the core idea of finding the core idea of an organization, which was a model developed by an associate of mine, Pete Matthew. And that's the unique and inherent truth about a product, service, or organization that differentiates it from the competition in ways that are meaningful and persuasive to the target audience. So the idea is the planning for the Greenway will be shaped by a consistent approach, drawing upon its inherent strengths. That's what we're trying to do in all of this, just as a reminder, because again, most of you have seen this at least conceptually once before. So, that involves research and analysis. Who are our customers? What do we do or make? How do we do that? In what ways do our customers benefit? Who are we working with? Who are we competing against? And then to bring that all in and think about, all right, what is that core idea? To synthesize that unique and inherent truth about the organization. And then from there, put together a strategy. How do we mobilize that unique and inherent truth to seize new opportunities and ward off challenges? And then lastly, action. What should we do next? What are the things that we need to take advantage of? Okay, so that's the process we're going through. There it is in a nutshell. And again, looking at the unique and inherent truth about the Greenway. And here's some of the results from some exercises we did early on in the process. What would success and failure look like? Success would look like expanded regional cooperation, increased tourism, increased visibility for the Greenway as a model, completed trails. Failure, fractionalization, loss of regional focus, abandonment of Greenway principles, loss of relevance in the communities. And if you remember, this was an exercise, I think the board did this in the initial meeting. So this was kind of what we saw as important elements of success and failure. And that idea of sort of a region knit together in a coherent way is an important part of this. We also asked which values were important to the Greenway, and you can see cooperation, community and public education, public access to the outdoors, financial sustainability, were all high on the list. And this you probably have a little trouble reading, but what are the most important outcomes for the strategic plan? It summarized, the two that were most widely shared was secure future funding for the Greenway and National Heritage Area, and to set clear priorities for the Greenway. And that's part of what we're trying to get to today, among other things. But you can see there are a variety of different responses. We did a series of interviews. I guess there have been about 20 some odd interviews with folks in different aspects, potential partners, county planners, not-for-profits, and so on. And here's some of the things that people told us. The things the Greenway does well: everybody can get a place at the table on a regular basis. The compact and planning assistants are very helpful in moving local planning initiatives forward. It helps keep the focus on the big picture for the region. Greenway grants help us leverage other funds. The kayak and canoe trail has been very successful. That MARC in particular is a go-to resource on planning and related issues. And that special projects like the Ramble and the Path Through History are handled well. So, when we ask people, what are the things that the Greenway does well, these are the sorts of things that came up. And what was nice is, I thought this particular meeting was a nice preamble to the strategic planning process, because I think it really highlighted the things that the Greenway does well. Oh, and also, there's an economic return to communities for Greenway-related activities. That this is an organization that produces economic benefit, not just civic goodwill. And that's an important thing. Things the Greenway could do better: development of heritage resources for communities and sites, extend Greenway principles to discussions on resiliency, explaining to novices who they are and what they do, that is the Greenway. Should they be more involved with agriculture? It's just a question that was raised by several folks. Completing the trail network is something that was identified. To get more resources for technical assistance work, possibly, maybe use webinars and other technological applications to extend the reach. To continue to leverage more and more partners given the funding shortage. Should the grants program be more closely focused on the Greenway principles? They do a great job given the severe resource limitations, and that came out pretty consistently. Those two things are important, I think, that there's a great job, but there are severe resource limitations. Share information on projects across the towns better. More intermunicipal work, possibly, rather than just going town by town. Is there a possibility to create shared projects among municipalities? So those are some things that it was seen that the Greenway could do better. Oh, and sorry, clarify the situation on indemnification, the ongoing issue. Who should the Greenway serve better or partner with? Cultural heritage tourism sites, tourism, agriculture, local communities, more diffusion for Greenway principles and creation of the compacts, counties, more intermunicipal agreements, and state agencies working in the valley like Environmental Conservation, Department of State, and Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. So again, pretty broad, ambitious charge to this organization. What are some critical next steps for the Greenway according to the interviews? Make strategic choices. For example, is the Greenway Trail a priority? How can the Greenway advance it? Recharge the organization. Should there be some kind of celebration or some other thing to raise visibility of the Greenway, given the good work that it's doing and the need to keep people informed? Continue to assist communities in making decisions about growth and development. Build upon credibility and good relations with local governments to further the acceptance of Greenway principles. possibly providing models and prototypes, and continue to play a catalytic role with funding and technical assistance. And that's something that came out, and today's meeting was a great example of that the Greenway funds really do play a catalytic role in projects throughout the region. You know, that there's not a lot of money, but people rely upon it, and it helps the communities leverage other sources. And this was something that came out of the evaluation of the National Heritage Area, which looked at the impact of the Greenway funding, and you know that it really does leverage a pretty substantial amount of money, and even you know the tax revenue return per dollar invested in the Greenway is $67 in tax revenue generated by the Greenway investments. So it suggests that this really is a pretty solid catalyst. And you know, this is kind of a summary of thinking about the Greenway's niche in all of this, and this is my attempt. Some of you have seen this graphic. You know, that there are a lot of different issues that go into making quality of life in the region. There's issues related to the environment, there's the local economies, and that there's parks, recreation, and historic preservation. And there are organizations that deal with each of these issues: land use, tourism, navigation of the river itself, water quality, fisheries. But you know, the quality of life itself comes from the nexus of all of these separate issues. And who is responsible for making it all come together? Because that's really where the quality of life comes from. And that idea that an authentic regional identity emerges from the confluence of these many efforts. No one aspect can dominate. Each stakeholder has its own role to play in terms of tourism promotion, environmental protection, economic development, local land use regulation. And the Greenway, through its work, the Greenway has emerged as an appropriate vehicle to foster a regional identity and a sense of place for the Hudson River Valley. And this can't be the work of any one agency or organization. It's a partnership. And you know, this is a quote that some of you have seen before that actually comes from a Hudson Valley resident of years past, Louis Mumford. And that idea that the care of those whose labors and plans create the solid structure of a region's life must be to unite culture in all its forms, from care of the earth to the use of energy, economic development, families and children, and you know, culture as the transformation of power into polity, of experience into science, and philosophy of life into the unity and significance of art. You know, this all has to be brought together and balanced, and is providing that central coordinating role. And part of the way to think about what that might look like for the organization is to do this exercise, which we've gone through a few different versions of, called the statement of market position, which is to the target markets being served. This product or service is, and what are the things that make it different, that can, you know, what does it do, and how can it, because what are the things that it's able to do it? How can it do those things? So when you apply that to the Greenway, and the idea of the Greenway as the central unifying force for all these different activities, and this is the third version of this, you know, to the people who live in, work in, and visit the Hudson River Valley and those concerned with its economy, environment, scenery, and cultural heritage, the Hudson River Valley Greenway is the only organization whose primary focus is to nurture and balance the region's economy, environment, scenery, and cultural heritage to promote a strong regional identity for the Hudson River Valley and enhance the valley's overall quality of life and sense of place by building partnerships with local communities and other stakeholders in the region. And that can address all the aspects in the valley by interconnecting and thereby strengthening the work of governments, not-for-profits, and other organizations active in the valley, because it provides a shared regional context for local initiatives through its Greenway principles, Greenway compacts, and Greenway Trail, can help communities leverage resources, has strong relationships with key stakeholder groups, including state and local government and the not-for-profit sector, serves as a broker to bring relevant expertise and best practices to bear on opportunities and problems identified by the stakeholders. So that's a big mouthful there. But the idea is that its primary purpose is to nurture and balance those different factors by building partnerships with local communities and other stakeholders in the region. That's from our perspective, the work that we've done. That seems to be the thing that makes the Greenway distinct and different. And the committee has had several discussions and takes on this. Any thoughts, reactions?
The Greenway sort of wants to blur the state-private aspect of things, but to me, this is a governmental entity. So to me, saying it's an organization makes it seem more like a nonprofit as opposed to a governmental sponsored.
Okay.
I would second that. I think it's important to acknowledge that it's a governmental.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know if you're aware, probably, Scott, and correct me if I'm wrong, or and Kitty is also a long-term people. But when it was set up, it was two-headed dragon, and you are aware of why. Because we wanted the grassroots, we wanted the state organization.
Mm-hmm.
And it's difficult, I mean, now I just talked about it, we don't distinguish between the two branches. But, so that, when you're saying organization, I happen to agree with you, but the Conservancy is an organization.
I think it's also important to distinguish it, frankly, from groups like St. Hudson.
Mhm.
If I showed that paragraph without the words Greenway in front of it to members of my board, they'd say, yeah, you captured St. Hudson.
Okay. Well, because if you, and I looked at the sort of the official mission of Scenic Hudson, and that speaks a lot about landscape. And but it just that the thrust of that is about the landscape. And again, maybe there's a difference in terms of the people's perceptions, but the official description is that the where they start the work anyway is at the landscape level.
I guess I would suggest that reality is much closer to what you described here.
I had the same thoughts. Very similar to Scenic Hudson or to some of the other, even to the estuary program, with one distinction being cultural heritage, but within Scenic Hudson, because they went to my boundary as an historical cultural. And so we've got a bunch of sort of organizations that don't do the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
but that dance around sort of the same location, same issues. And
Yeah.
the distinction is.
Yeah, making the distinction is critical. For example, I think I could distinguish this from parks. I think I could distinguish this from the estuary program. If Steve, if what you're saying that this is in fact how Scenic Hudson perceives itself, that's and it's something that needs further work then. Because again, on paper, I think there's a distinct difference. But paper is only paper.
But if you were to insert the word governmental sponsored organization, it would clear that all up.
Well, the easy answer that would get me out of this would be to say yes. But the other issue is, all right, what makes this, the fact that it's a government organization, and if all it's doing is reproducing something that a private organization is already doing, then that's not that's not in terms of strategic planning, that's not a meaningful difference.
Again, I don't want to.
Yeah, no, I think this is important.
I don't want to overstate it. I don't think it's exactly the same. It's maybe more of a difference is how we go about our work and less about what is the driver for our work and the values that we have. But again, I think if someone closely associated with our organization saw this, they would go, well, that sounds an awful lot like that.
Okay.
Peter, we have so many different lines that revolve around public benefit corporation that it's confusing to me.
Mm-hmm.
But that does give us powers to raise money that is not
Yes. This is a way of thinking about how is this organization different from the other organizations in the valley.
Well, okay, so I think being a public benefit corporation and only part of public conservancy is the whole conservancy public benefit corporation?
There are actually, just to clarify, there are 3 corporate entities that comprise the Greenway Council, which is the council of state of the functions of the agency. The Greenway Conservancy for the Hudson River Valley, which is a public benefit corporation, and the Greenway Heritage Conservancy, which are renamed, which is a nonprofit, and subsidiary to the public. So, conveniently, the organization is a catch-all for the variety of technical organizations.
Yeah, that's what the word organization is used deliberately. That it's not just the state agency that there's.
But I think agency, I think if we all remember the rest of the agency, that might help the record.
Okay.
The public benefit corporation's quasi, it's almost like that's, I mean, I don't know what you think about anything that's just, like a state in general, public benefit corporation is, it has powers beyond the state agency because it's public benefit corporation. And that's why I think you guys can tie it to all these different, we could be in a many different places that a state agency could be. You see that? Is that true? Because I'm new here, so
I think you should, yes, I agree with you most of what you said. The Greenway and all its permutations was created in state legislation to serve a state purpose. And I can tell you that I'm here to represent the records here. I represent the commissioner. So a lot of people know. So this is a very different type of organization. And the fact that it is governmental means that it can operate in different ways. And I would be directed to do something for the Greenway. And that would be part of my job. So it is entirely different from a nonprofit group.
Okay, because no, but I think that starts to get back to, all right, why does that matter that it's a state organization? Because then it suggests it's a state organization serving state purposes, and that makes it different from the. So that I can factor that into this, and now that creates the differentiator, you know.
I guess I just don't see that private side as something we should just say it's an agency then doesn't quite fit. I mean, you know, so really it's a public-private partnership that something has to convey this fact that it's not just an agency and it's not just a public benefit.
Public benefit corporation is by the state as well, so it's quasi-governmental entity. It's not private in the sense that it's incorporated.
Well, it has a private element to it. That sure is a I don't know, I mean, what is the actual corporate?
it's a subsidiary nonprofit that was reincorporated as a nonprofit.
That's governmental funding, you use for their
Right.
the other.
Yeah.
And I believe, I mean, aren't its board members appointed through?
Yeah, the board members are not the same as the public benefit.
So, I mean, I think its corporate structure is what it is. It's still complete sort of state creature.
The not-for-profit.
I was just going to say I think Sarah said the last part of it, the partnership with local communities and other stakeholders, maybe that could be strengthened in the sort of public-private partnership part of it could be brought out.
Yeah. Sarah, and then we'll go. Sarah,
I
yes.
think you should include the federal government as well, certainly in the area.
Okay. And then Sally, you had.
Well, I think that's what I want to do, so that's what's missing is the structure of the Greenway that makes it unique, and it is
Okay. Let's go to Scott.
For what it's worth, the not-for-profit was created in 1981, and it was, the authority to create it was granted by the legislature in environmental conservation law.
Okay, and then Cindy, and then.
I just want to make sure that you get in there something in relation to the administration of grants or monies, because that's another thing that makes us unique, and it's very important to hold it
Okay,
and distinguish it from scenic Hudson.
okay.
Yeah, it's not to say languages, resources, I think you can kind of read it into that.
Right.
But I think it should express very specifically, access to funds and grant people.
Okay.
Over the years, there was a huge change. I mean, in the country, it was the reshape of the environment initiative, more recently, I'm using that for the first of the time, in the aspect of the economy and cultural heritage comes to play. Whereas those four things have always been part of the Greenway. Am I correct, Steve, in that? 'Cause I know you've been there a long time.
Yeah, again, I just want to make sure that for this purpose, we're sort of getting it right.
Yeah.
And I think what people are getting hung up on is this sort of notion of this is the only organization that's not this. And one of the great things about the Hudson Valley is we have so many governmental programs and organizations that are committed to different slices of what makes up this whole. And some organizations like Hudson may, at this point in its history, have a lot of those slices also under our and so I think, again, I think the fact that it's governmental and the way that it operates and functions is almost more important or as important as what its substantive focus is.
Okay.
So that could be addressed if you added another bullet to it that does it. Along the lines, where it structures bring federal and state agencies together with local stakeholders or something like that.
I think it's more than just the bullet. I think right at the top, I think it's expressed at the very, very top that the structure of the organization is uniqueness, then it's natural for everything else to follow. But I think let's be upfront about it. What is, Greenway, what it is.
Yes, sorry.
I think that what I say the key difference between the Greenway and scenic Hudson and a lot of other organizations is that the Greenway's primary role is really a facilitator of other people's work, and that's a lot of work. Not to underestimate the amount of work you can facilitate, but giving grants, getting people together, providing information, it's like they're the center of a nexus that facilitates other people's work. Whereas scenic Hudson, they do their own research, they raise money for, they're a doer of the work, and the Greenway is a facilitator of other people. We don't take on trying to fix a town, so that's the distinction in my mind.
That's a good point, because it's like just budget-wise, I mean, the Greenway is 300, 400,000, scenic Hudson is what, 5-something million, so clearly there's it's reflected that it has more facilitating, leveraging role as opposed to implementation.
We can go on that way.
I totally agree that you need to have some kind of mark position that combines structure and purpose. So that's key. That's the uniqueness. And also maybe it would just help to kind of focus us in a way, just to focus actually on the verbs in the statement. What are the verbs? Nurture, balance, promote, enhance, and building. Right?
Building partnerships.
Right, but in other words, are those the right verbs? We're here to facilitate, we're here to grant, we're here to support. But are those the right verbs? And are people satisfied with those verbs? And I think that might be where it's steering in the way that maybe people are reacting to.
Okay.
Just the verbs here. The verbs right.
And I think it's kind of been touched on, but it seems to me that that people who want to know, okay, what can the Greenway, the state agency, what can it do that is not that differentiates itself from other state agencies?
Right.
So, and that's, a really important piece.
Yeah, I think that, and it probably needs to be reworked, but the idea here is that it works sort of across categories of activities to focus on balancing the economy, environment, scenery, and cultural heritage. That's what it does that's distinct. And that, that can be reworked. And that idea of, that it's a facilitator, working across all of these, that's the concept that's buried in that verbiage right now.
Yeah, I often think about the Greenway as being sort of creates a neutral space
Mm-hmm.
where public and private interests can come together to share ideas and gain access to resources, then to advance that purpose.
Steve, I think you did it right, because if we're trying to explain the Greenway to somebody, they're not going to sit through that discourse, if you're expressing it in their own words, and you pull it down into, what, 20 words that you said? It's the elevator stage.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's, and Sally mentioned earlier, we're a facilitator. We provide, we allow people to move forward, organizations to move forward.
Allow me to
Resist,
Mm-hmm.
resist.
Right.
And because we're a governmental agency, we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the three verbs are facilitate, fund, and foster. So we facilitate these interactions, we fund initiatives, and we foster the principles. We foster the principles too of what. It's not just we're having a good time. We are, there's an edge to it. We have principles.
Okay. I like that. We need G's, right. Well, we could write them in green if that. Okay, but, and there's aspects of that here. But, I think that notion of facilitate, fostering, and funding, but, framework is very good. It's a framework for facilitating, fostering, and funding. But, the other thing that I think those verbs are right, but the other aspect of this I think is important, is maybe it's that neutral space or that nexus. It's working across the traditional categories. That it's not just about land use, it's not just about heritage, it's not just about economic development, it's not just about parks, it's sort of continually bringing all of that stuff together. Right, yeah, that asterisk image.
It's also not that we're not talking about the what but the how.
Yeah.
It's the how right here that we're focusing on, whether it's for
Framework, well, I don't know what we're going to keep framework, but facilitate, fund, and foster. I think, we can work with that, and I think that'll help clarify this. And also the idea that it's, the notion that it's a state agency, or at least that it's serving state purposes. I think that's another important distinguishing thing. This isn't something where, 4 people got together and say, let's put on a show. It's like there was a recognized state purpose saying, this is an important thing that we, as a state, need to do. So I think that needs to be in here. And that's the thing that I think is missing completely in this. I'll even admit that myself.
Peter's market position, I'm not sure. How do you see this being used?
To think about what are the things that make this organization different from the folks that are out there. And again, I think now we're starting to get to the point where we can talk about how it's different than the Greenway. Because if you're going to ask a state legislator to support more money for the Greenway, then you'd say, well, we would do that, except Scenic Hudson already does all that stuff. And I think now we're at the point now where we can articulate why the Greenway is important, because it does stuff that Scenic Hudson doesn't do, that Parks doesn't do, that the Illinois Partnership doesn't do. That ultimately that's what, to me, and I would hope everyone else, having that distinct understanding about the unique role that this organization plays is critical going forward. And Steve is right. We've got to get this right, and I think we've made big steps today. I wish people had come forward sooner with this stuff. But I think, you know, that's the reason for this, is to think about why is this worthy of support separate from all these other things that are happening?
I really like this phrase, it's really a neutral space. It's a way of saying, like, all right, we're not Democrats, we're not Republicans, we're not, you can't put a label on this. Everybody is free to come and talk here. It's a very nice way of putting it.
Good? Well done, Steve.
It also seems to go, are able to go and beyond the different, you got the ag market, you have that which, like usually the silos, when you deal with different departments, they're like silo busters.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Yes, Cindy.
I was going to say that I've had to do this. A few years back when they were going to take the funding away from the Greenway, as a municipal official, I had to write a letter in support of the Greenway and differentiate what is special. And I agree with you, it's very important that we get this down and make sure that we distinguish ourselves.
Yes, Steve.
Based on what we had talked about, I think it's all zero.
Yeah, we can take a shot at it. Yeah. I think at the very least summarize the discussion so everybody sees that the main points are there, and then we can always wordsmith it later on. But yeah, we can do that because we're going to have at least one break where we can scramble around while you folks take it nice and easy and have lunch or something like that. We'll try to do that because that's important. Okay, good. Anything else? Any other comments, reactions? I think this was very good, very helpful. Working draft of the core idea, and actually this turns out to be pretty close to some of what we've been talking about. The unique inherent truth about the Hudson River Valley Greenway, building regional quality of life through local partnerships. And maybe but that idea, maybe even just use facilitate, fund, and foster as the core idea, because that expresses the same thing, and it's alliterative.
The funding pieces of it.
Yeah.
I think if anyone's asked, oh, you're in the Greenway, what do you do? It's like one of the first things you say is, oh, we can help you grants and support. So I think the funding is distinguishable.
Okay, good. So you'll see this continue, but you might just think about the 3 F's in its place, or some version of it, because that really captures the concept. And that whole idea, part of this is the compact is a good example of the Greenway at work. That idea of facilitating funding and fostering. And the trail itself, the idea of the trail as being part of that concept. So we're going to continue to fine-tune that. We'll come back to you at the end of the day by hook or by crook with a summary of what this approach looks like. But I think we can get there now. That idea of serving the state purposes through funding, fostering, and facilitating across a wide range of issues is key.
This sort of public-private or federal, state, local concept needs to come through also.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't remember if it was one of the bullets up there, but what I often think about in the compact is the influence that the Greenway has had on local planning throughout the region through the compact, through the Greenway principles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you can see, the first bullet, that because it provides a shared regional context for our local initiatives through its Greenway principles, Greenway packs, and Greenway Trail. But yeah, that.
It has a great
Well, let's go away from this, so we don't, tell me about the powerful influence, how you see that powerful influence.
Well, I see it at a local level through planning decisions.
Okay.
It's incorporated into your comprehensive plan, into your zoning, into your subdivision regulations, and it's used as planning tools at the very local level. And it's, you know, it's driving us to smarter initiatives. And nothing like that has ever happened. I've been involved with it for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
But people don't think of it as, gee, the Greenway did that. It was part of the Greenway compact. Because it's been incorporated into our planning tools. But that's where it started. It started at the Greenway and through contact with county planning and then to our local communities.
Okay.
Well, a lot of that is funding. Because by funding, a lot of communities would not have even begun the comprehensive plan process without the funding of the Greenway.
Well, I think even before that, when the outreach was made to put the Green communities into the Greenway, there is a lot of work that goes on. I know that, you know, sometimes multiple outreaches or the communities are even comfortable with planning and things like that. So there's an educational component that they actually have done that, you know, it's like it's a slow thing and, you know, sometimes you have contact with people, but there's an educational planning, educational thing, component that is done by the Greenway.
We don't force.
We foster.
We foster.
Yeah.
We incentivize, we encourage, we support. But I think by fostering, Greenway
Yeah.
to help local planning, you know, according to, that's the way to get at that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And funding, it's the three supers that's cool.
Yeah,
You
good.
need to look for a city right now, where Dutchess County is now, where it was 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
With Greenway connections. It's night and day south of city.
Yeah.
All to do with the Greenway.
Right. But I think just to capture it through those verbs, and I like those verbs, that, you know, that idea of fostering this shared set of values about land use, because it's a tricky thing, because it is fostering. It's not like everybody's doing this now because they were told to do it by the Greenway. It's been absorbed over time. And I think that's the thing that's interesting and unique about it. And, you know, fostering is the closest verb, I think, that gets there. But it's an important idea. And I agree, and we'll have to express that clearly.
I think it's important, though, especially in the context of your point here about wanting to make the case about why it's important going forward, that we not sort of talk about it as if the job is done, because it's far from done, and some communities and counties are much further along in their day-to-day reference to Greenway principles than others, and there's a lot still to do.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Hearing Sally talk through reminds me, there's something that's not on your budget list, it creates regional structures that people can participate in, so the Greenway principles that get adopted, by locality, by the county, that creates a structure that gets, you know, zoning ordinances, these are structures. And by creating structures like that, this multiplier effect of the name, the Greenway Trail, in other words, now it's a big picture and everybody can have their place in it. So I've always thought one of the great strengths of the which it does so much with so little, is that it has a few structures that people can adopt and participate in, create regional standards.
Okay. Jane, and then.
We're going to have to do something, being able to go and find it elsewhere, using that boost. And so there again, that's the fostering concept. I know Linda was the supervisor by town, York Town for a number of years. Now she's in the state agency, so she sees it from both sides. I know Westchester County was very early on and an early adopter. But it's, oh, somebody else did this. Oh, here's some things that are helpful. And there's a huge difference because very often people aren't seeing much past their town because they have more things they've got to figure out.
Yep.
And I think that's one of the strengths of the way, and back again to the gaps, It's the foster.
Yep, okay, good, Sarah.
I was just going to point out, I know for what it's worth, just again, Sally's thought reminded me of a bit of the dichotomy or the irony of the fact that these Greenway principles fostered a very strong sense of empowerment and ownership by localities to take on these principles, such that you may not even remember that it started. I think that's what I heard. And that just would be inherently one of the challenges of having the Greenway better known, because it tends to get, because it's such a fundamental philosophy to not take ownership, but let it become known. We have to address that somehow, you still go out into the street and it's not as well known how much we do. So how to address that it just feels like a real challenge.
Yeah, I don't know, I haven't gone on the website, but I know the CCC funds Spanish, and they have copies, you get it off their website, the plan is one. And I don't know whether you do that or whether you just have links to it, but that's something you can do, is just put links on the website or whatever, all the plans that we're done.
But we have to get people to the website. And, for me, the agent of Gorilla in our organization is I actually think the grassroots who need to be engaged pretty much are aware of something called the Greenway and might be there to help them with a small project or some technical assistance. My concern is at the top of the ladder. I'm seeing the 2% tax cap has had a serious impact on how much municipality feels it can dedicate across different budgetary lines. I've seen the Greenway budget slashed. And my concern is that our local representatives who should understand more about the value of the Greenway aren't hearing about it. So, I think maybe we should all be writing letters to our local newspapers saying, here's what a great Greenway project just did in our region. And just remind, because they have staff people who are reading the local newspapers every day and seeing. And so my concern is, I think our voice actually reaches fairly far in our local community. But I'm concerned that it's not filtering up.
Okay. And we're going to talk a bit about board roles a little later on, and that may be, the idea of being a champion for the Greenway and the work that it's doing with the state, at the state level in terms of state representatives, may be a critical thing that the boards could do. Other thoughts? Now we're going to talk about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. But we're going to come back to you with a revised version of the sort of the market position and the strengths of this particular organization, the fostering, funding, and facilitating. I don't have it in front of me. But what I'd like to now is just talk about, what we see as strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And every time I've done a SWOT analysis, really the idea is sort of what we just did is, I'm going to throw this up on the board, see if it makes sense to you, but also are there other strengths or weaknesses, opportunities and threats that you would see? And the strengths, again, what are the capacities that the Greenway has to fulfill its role? Weaknesses, what are those internal aspects of the Greenway that make it less able? The opportunities, what are the general economic, social, or demographic trends that the Greenway can take advantage of? Threats, what are those same factors that might seriously hinder the Greenway? And so it goes up in the consultants 2x2 table, starting with the threats: continued government austerity, lack of knowledge of the Greenway's role in regional development, frustration with the perceived lack of progress, it kind of rolled into one, absorption of the Greenway into a regulatory agency is, that's threats. Any other threats? Mm-hmm.
And I think that the threat to the Greenway is if you don't keep reminding people, Scenic Hudson's great, analogy that cows don't go to school, that kind of thing, that if we don't continue to remind people that land is a penny saved and it's 2 pennies earned, I think our threat is that we're going to lose that kind of opportunity to educate the public about
Okay. Other thoughts about that? That originally the idea of protecting land was a major selling point that might be lost. Cindy, and then we'll go to Jennifer.
Well, I kind of get what he's saying, but at the same time, I want to focus on the rights to the Greenway agency itself, not so much the Hudson River development. And one of the things that still continues to be a threat to the Greenway are the property rights folks. Oakland County is now getting ready to consider a contract discussion. And those folks will be very much in the audience, and they haven't gone away. And they have always been somebody that has spoken against their perception of the
Okay. So the idea of property rights as a threat or emphasis on property rights.
Maybe different ways, nicer way, I don't know, some other way of saying that it's just anti-planning sentiment.
Okay.
We're like pro-planning, and not anti-planning sentiment. Two houses on after. But I wanted to also maybe get back to what you say, well, is what the press is a shift perhaps in public concern from conservation to economic development. And we jumped on that bandwagon. Wait, we're for economic development too, right? But, that's not how it started. But in order to survive, we had to say, okay, you look for that too. Is that,
Well, the original condition of economic development was kind of flawed, and it was supposed to be economic development related to the values of the Greenway. And, so all of us who follow our local activities in the planning board will see every developer budget and say this is going to contribute to economic development. But our vision of economic development was fostering agriculture and tourism. So I think that there has just been a blurring and a softening of that. So that the threat, I think, is to the understanding of the principles of the Greenway's view of that.
Okay.
That's where I was going with my suggestion, very much related to, let's continue government austerity, but the focus, and make it not soft and blurry, it's pretty harsh, which is that the regional economic development goals are very squarely focused, even when you're doing a heritage grant, on job creation, and not necessarily on other intrinsic values, so that heritage necessarily is the same text of economic development as any other grant proposal. And so the funding situation has really changed its orientation. And that's very good to get. Because you have to prove very different metrics now.
Jobs.
Right. So, the idea that heritage is instrumental to economic development only is a real threat. Heritage and other, it's a real threat to Greenway's work.
Okay. The focus on jobs as the metric for funding. But let me turn around, because I would see that economic development has been part of the Greenway's mission and approach right from the beginning. I mean, even the initial missions all refer to economic development. It's not like it's...
supposed to be an outgrowth of the benefits of tourism, agriculture, and the other principles of the Greenway.
Okay. So that idea that the extent to which jobs become the only acceptable metric by funders, that can be seen as a threat.
The other more general economic threat is that a lot of these agencies are, they're funded by a lot of organizations and nonprofits that are funded by Greenway, but just their capacity is weaker and weaker all the time. So it's not just government austerity, but the ability of nonprofits to survive.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Okay.
But I acknowledge the Greenway's role in regional development. I don't consider that a threat, I consider that a weakness.
Well, it depends, because it's
I know that the threats are external, but at the same time, it's more of a weakness of the organization because internally they have not made themselves better.
it's sort of,
It's between the two.
yeah, well, or it's the one is the flip side of the other. And maybe we'll even, the weakness is limited staff, limited budget, decreasing visibility or brand equity. If I could use that's a weakness. And that's related to the fact that there are fewer and fewer people that may know about the role of the Greenway as a regional entity and resource. And so on this side of the changing priorities for funders in terms of economic development, I think, needs to be added to that. The ongoing weakness of not-for-profits, I'm not sure that's a direct threat. That's certainly a problem, but I'm not sure it's a direct threat to the Greenway. Anything else?
Well, when we started, there was a lot of strong champions, and there's still champions out there, but there's not champions that have been there.
Okay.
Retirements or
Lost
retired, original champions.
Yeah, champion turnover.
Champion turnover. No, that's key. There was a generation or so of people that were out front initially, and they may not be there. Clara Lou was honored at the meeting, and she's a good example of someone that was, that really, at least initially it seemed, persuaded a lot of local officials to take the Greenway seriously, just by the fact that she did. Yeah, and it goes back to that whole idea of decreasing visibility and brand equity. That this I see as an important issue, and that's one of the ways in which it's becoming a problem. Okay. Yes, it's right. It's no longer the new shiny object. The other thing that was pointed out at some point is, that there's a way in which the Greenway is living off a legacy of the initial wave of enthusiasm and outreach. And as those people that have experienced that step aside and move on to other things, there's a need to probably replenish that exercise. And it was a lot easier to do with more staff.
So maybe the degrading of the Greenway constituency as a board.
Okay. Yeah. The graying of the Greenway.
I wasn't.
But that is true of so many organizations that are out there. Is, to continue to look for new board members, to make sure you have the diversity of the skills, and to, you're losing the culture that created the organization.
Right.
And that devotion and love, it's gone. And so we have to reteach, retrain, and maybe redefine what you are also, because you're in a different environment, different times.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the other thing I'd point out before we go on is this is a unique situation in that this organization doesn't control its board. You know, that it's appointed elsewhere. It's,
The governor, the majority leaders of the Senate and Assembly, the 10 county executives, the 10 county of the Greenway.
Who suggests board members to that?
It really runs the gamut.
Because I just got a call from Mark. So,
Well, the Conservancy has the council has the appointments of the Conservancy. That's the only, those are the only board members that have possibility of cultivating board members for specific purposes.
Okay, so it's something to keep in mind. Sarah? And then we'll go on.
I was just going to say another way of expressing this transition from really past generations to new ones is rather than not saying relevant or need to be relevant to today's culture.
Okay. Go ahead.
One of the problems is when it was started with strong need, it's been successful, so that need is, and the parents are still a need out there. But the success of the Greenway has sort of, there's not the urgency anymore out there, so things are still success.
you mean for Douglas County?
For Nutty, sorry, Winchester, Hudson River, I mean, compared to what it was like 20, 25 years ago.
Yeah. Well, just as an example, if you remember, about that time, the Regional Plan Association did one of their regional plans, and one of the underlying assumptions was the area was just going to be bowled over by this massive wave of development coming out of New York City. You know, that was an operating premise, and how do we respond to that? And that didn't happen. You know, that there was all this indications, but it wasn't as massive and as pervasive as initially thought. And so that, you know, and then couple that with the economic downturn, and suddenly that whole question of urgency is flipped. It's like, where are those people from New York that are going to save us? As opposed to, you know, we got to keep them out of here because they're going to ruin paradise.
But also like tourism things. I mean, 25 years ago, the walkway over the Hudson was just a Hudson Railroad bridge. And, you know, people are talking about moving down. I mean, there's a lot of things that have happened in the last 10, 15 years that people don't realize. We had a lot of help for these things on, and it's just that there's just what's going on, and it's continuing with that.
Well, we had a champion. I mean, we had a voice teaching, and it's Steve Stella. I'm not, so I don't know if that's big, but, glad, okay. And I, you know, as you're speaking, I'm remembering that. We had these two voices, just, you know, whenever they could drop the name Greenway, it was out
Mhm.
there.
Yeah.
So we had real champions.
Yeah.
I just got a general question though, is the economy stronger now? Means minus the Great Recession. So, is the economy stronger now than it was? The organization was created because, no, it's weak.
I don't think it's a strong. Is there a difference? This group of people, I could say, are politically conservative, okay? And, you know, I don't know many people well, but I'm just guessing that. And because you're in a physical environment that tends to, those tend to go hand in hand. And I think back to 1990, the 80s, you know, there was much more Brown, so to speak, I was more readily available. I think it's a tighter economy, and I think we're also thinking tighter.
Yeah.
Well, planning has become a lot more sophisticated than it was when the Greenway got started.
Yeah.
Our local planning board members didn't have training. There weren't, you know, the planning federations that were training volunteer decision makers. The planning tools are so much more sophisticated. There's so much more going on. And people tend to think that all that's going to make everything okay. They don't realize that the threats are still out there. There's still terrible development proposals being placed on the table, and that you still need the fervor that you had 20 years ago, because if you don't, it's going to destroy everything that you've built over the past 20 years. So while there's a lot of good things that have happened, you could lose it very, very quickly. And I think that's the message that our job is not done. We have to continue to, be the watchdog, to be there to promote and support and what it is that
Foster, facilitate, and fund.
But there are also opportunities, because we've been fortunate that because of the better planning that is coming along with that whole thing. Like we have complete streets, we have different state initiatives that communities can build on with the help and the encouragement of the Greenway. So those are still additional opportunities that we can capture.
Yeah, and what I've done is thrown up the strengths and opportunities as well, just to put them into the discussion. You can see the strengths: planning knowledge, the connections and network, access to New York State agencies, flexibility and agility, ability to provide catalytic funding, and brand equity. Opportunities: heritage tourism, the success of the Ramble and the Water Trail, increased acceptance of regionalism, hamlet, village, and city revitalization, and the emergence of the millennial generation. There's a bunch of people out now that like the idea of living in villages and cities. That wasn't around 20 years ago.
Could you be more specific when you use that term, emergence of millennial? Because I think there are a lot of older people who are also returning to downtown. So I think more of a return.
Okay, sure.
But also, I was going to say opportunities, as Sally said, planning knowledge is an opportunity as much as it is a strength internally. And also, very rewarding, specific item is that Sally mentioned that everyone required in that training. So an opportunity, maybe Greenway could be getting into that market a little. I know that we talked about your limitations of what you can do as a group in terms of work. But if you're required to take 4 credits every 2 years as a planning board, zoning board member of training, if that were available, if something like even coming to one of these meetings was considered continuing education credit for town and planning board members, not only would they attend here more often, but the awareness might grow and they become full credit.
That's a very good idea. That's easy.
Well, it might be a half hour or an hour of it is often a training opportunity in the sense that some of these training opportunities that they get is a PowerPoint presentation about something having to do with planning or development. So it could qualify as things we're considering as an opportunity.
Okay.
I'm going to add the staff of their strengths. They're very committed and knowledgeable. That training knowledge is that. If they're very committed, other people would have walked away and hadn't been whole.
Okay.
I've been on the board of the Westchester Municipal Planning Federation, which spends a lot of time along with the Rockland Planning Federation and the New York State Planning Federation, creating those courses for planning boards, zoning board, and town board members to get there. And they're very specifically training courses. They're not just attending a meeting and being in the background. We're really focused on giving people the tools and materials, and very careful about how many credits you get for how many hours you put in, and do not want this to be a joke. I was involved in the creation of the requirements for training, and Bob was the Secretary of State. We were emphatic about trying to get people to really gain knowledge about what, as they were approaching it, and not just use it as, oh, I went to that meeting, that's really dangerous. We won't even allow the annual meeting is not allowed.
For credits.
Very strongly. We also created those very specific. So it might be that something other than that is an opportunity. But it seems like maybe there could be some incentive generated to increase understanding of the Greenway that has to do with that training credit.
Okay, yeah.
I was going to say that, we go back to the things that we do well, like facilitating, for example.
things will flow from them. So in other words, if you do a really good job facilitating, people will realize and recognize when they come into office where there is turnover, that when you come to these kind of meetings, it is a neutral place, a safe place, and you can actually learn and be taken seriously and meet people who you can impart with. I think the threat to me is that, you know, and this happens in any corporation or government or university setting, when new leadership comes in, they want to feel like they're inventing something new, they're creating something new. It's their initiative, path of history, for example. Whereas, you know, the Greenway's the opportunity is to always be able to respond to that and not be seen as something that's kind of old news, but as actually can be a partner for facilitating these new initiatives. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Because I think that's how you defend against the irrelevancy. Is you have to be flexible and you have to be seen as, wow, this is a great channel to use for advancing new agenda.
Yeah, and that idea of the flexibility and agility is intended to capture that.
Yeah, very much.
But yes, sir.
I just stumble over heritage tourism a little bit. It seems to me that there's a huge opportunity out there in tourists or people wanting more variety of destinations, more variety, including trails, recreational opportunities, just the things that the Greenway is so involved in. So maybe it's just tweaking that a little bit to just you could say just tourism.
Okay.
Or wider tourism interests, or because it's a different audience.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, heritage tourism is put there for a couple of reasons. One is that that there's a definition of heritage tourism that includes kind of active outdoor recreation. So maybe that needs to be a little more specific. But also, there's a way in which the funding now for the Greenway that's available over the next couple of years, which is related to the National Heritage Area, suggests that heritage tourism, there's an opportunity there because there are resources that are available to the organization that could be used in heritage tourism in particular. But yeah, we can include just tourism in general. But the specific thing I wanted to capture is that there's an opportunity because of just straight funding available.
This is seriously becoming a threat to getting people outdoors and outside. And the opportunity is that maybe more people will go to heritage sites that are indoors or have closely, confined areas. But pinpointing that, it is a serious economic and environmental threat to what we're trying to do. We want to send people out into our state parks, our riverside trails, all those places. People are concerned about seasons. And the other side of that is that our metropolitan agencies and our state budget, research institute, the kids are journals is $70,000. I mean, it's and that is going to have a huge devastating effect on our housing
Okay.
Under opportunities, I think there's been a growing focus on what I'll call sub-regions, and there are a number of projects that are taking advantage of some of the successes in the past to connect the dots and bring, as was mentioned before, bringing multiple communities together. So it may not be region-wide, but maybe it's 2 or 3 or 4 communities working together on a project in a sub-region. And I think Greenway has supported those, has fostered those in the past, has funded some of those in the past, and there's a real opportunity now because a lot of the groundwork has been done.
So the idea is to foster more of those kinds of sub-regional partnerships? Okay.
As an opportunity.
Okay.
As far as the Hudson's revitalization, city of Hudson, how did you guys interface? Did you kind of, I know it just kind of took off, and it was antiques, and the reason why it kind of formed
And always is, yeah.
Well, the Greenway's intern is now director of economic development, so we have a direct connection.
We did.
But the short answer is that, our planning process and principles influence those kinds of decisions. Our communities look at growing centers and what their economic development strategy should be. Because the fundamental question is, who are we? Looking at development of city centers or village centers, what is the appropriate development strategy? What's the so something that embraces walkability, embraces village centers is compatible. Something that's not compatible with manufacturing or something large scale, something that doesn't fit those areas. Those are the kind of things we encourage folks to try to do to protect our culture.
I don't think that the success of the Ramble and the water trail is an opportunity. I would say it's a threat, it's a strength that the organization has. But I'm a trail person on the land, and back in 12 years ago, there were staff members that worked with communities, helping things with trails and communities. But, once the staffing started to drop, it was a case like, nope, it's just going away. And like Scott, with the water trail, he can chip away bit by bit. One place at a time. Okay. Whereas the trail, people look at it and, well, how can I do this? How can I do that? And so the concept of the trail about keeping the river, uniting communities, has fallen by the wayside. I'm not saying, woe is me. I'm saying we need to look at this seriously. Is this something, even though the legislation has it in there, is it something that we're doing? Because when we talk about a greenway, people think trail. Okay? And this greenway is different because it's been about regional planning, the 4Fs, and we've evolved into that. Are trails that important to communities? Most people who aren't out walking in the woods, maybe just a little bit into it, aren't interested in a trail. It doesn't mean anything to them. To be able to go to the river is to be able to go and take a look at something. Okay? It's not necessarily going to walk along it. Westchester County has river walk, which they're slowly pushing bit by bit. But have they come back to the Greenway Action designation? And the answer is no. My own community, I know I'm guilty because I'm sitting on a whole network of trails, but I want to get the last 2 links in before I bring them. It will be like 30-some miles of trails, because I'll bring it at one time. Because the process, I don't want to submit my town only just like them, okay? To having to approve several of them. But it is a case where I think we need to rethink the trail aspect. And this is the first time we've very gung-ho trails because it's not moving forward. And I think that is something that is an opportunity, but it's something you have to address. And it's tied in with the people not going outdoors.
Yeah, the role of trails in the Greenway process and the Greenway
Where are they? Fun, they're community trails, and it's an easy place to go for a walk your dog. They're going to use it. And I see it in my community.
Or of the market position statement. And we're not going to wordsmith it, but just to make sure that the concept reflects the reality of our discussion. And then we're going to go into a couple of exercises in terms of setting priorities for activities program. Okay? So here's the revised SWOT analysis. You can see there are things that have been added, I think, everywhere. On the strength side, credibility and track record, the idea of it that it creates structures and opportunities for local participation, weaknesses, loss of the original champions, graying of the constituency and board, underengaged board, opportunities, tourism in general, planning, training, sub-regional partnerships, leveraging funding, getting communities to understand about leveraging, threats, continued government austerity, lack of knowledge of the Greenway's role. I added loss of urgency, anti-planning sentiments, funding metrics that focus on jobs, jobs, and jobs, and Lyme's disease and the threat to outdoor recreation.
Regarding the Lyme's one, I know that's an important one right now, but if this is a long-term strategic plan, I would add and other known unknowns or some other program, so.
Okay.
Because there are other potential vector-borne illnesses or climate-related, changes that could affect the Greenway just as much as Lyme.
Okay.
That's why I asked if it's tick-borne diseases.
Right, but it could,
But you're right,
it
it's
could be so many things, and I'm just thinking about it in the longer term. It's Lyme and related sort of.
It's a perceived danger of the outdoors.
Oh, okay, right, yeah.
All right.
That's more specific than that.
Which is on a local level more than outside the local area.
They're not aware of it yet.
Well, I hope you're right, but I haven't heard from friends in other parts of the country who said, well, it doesn't mitigate what we're already doing.
I'm just saying, Lyme is, thinking of many other environmental changes that are affecting our behavior, so I would, to narrow it just to what I'm thinking, climate change.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Other public health and environmental change that might threaten the outdoors. Okay. So now we're going to do the statement of market position. So, and I really like this. So if you're going to, I'm going to start to cry if I get in. The revised statement of market position. To people who live, work, and visit the Hudson River Valley and those concerned with its economy, environment, scenery, and cultural heritage, the Hudson River Valley Greenway is the only organization created by the state of New York to promote and safeguard the quality of life in the Hudson River Valley that can address all aspects of the quality of life in the valley by interconnecting and thereby strengthening the work of governments, not-for-profit, and other organizations active in the valley because it fosters the dissemination and adoption of Greenway principles to promote smart growth and sustainable development, facilitates activities to support those principles involving partnerships among public and private stakeholders, funds catalytic projects to further Greenway principles. Thank you, Kevin, for the verbs. It's all about the verbs. Yeah, I know, but if you get paid by the word,
But you got the state of New York in.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not an agency.
Right. Yeah, the idea that there's a state purpose to work here. Well, I can't tell you what a relief it was when I finally did the last delete to get this. But, I think this was a very helpful exercise. It always is painful. And, probably some of you are going, why didn't this idiot think of this stuff beforehand? Why do I have to come up with it? That's just the nature of this work sometimes. So thank you all for suffering through it. And I think this provides now a framework where we can think about the unique contributions that the Greenway can make. And that's what we're going to start to do. You should have a worksheet here that this list of activities is reproduced in the worksheet. Show me the first one. Yes, but there's a room for some others too. But it's called Worksheet 1, and it's got program areas. And here they are. And, I think first, if you could just take a few minutes to make sure this captures everything. Is there anything that's missing? Let's just take a few minutes, go through this, see if there's anything you think are particularly important or noteworthy that the Greenway has been doing or not doing that should be included in this. And then what we're going to do is to identify the 4 most immediately important ones and the 4 least immediately important ones. So is everybody, and then we're going to have to take another short break again, but that's okay. We're going to compile these and then show you what the results look like. So first, let's just go through. I'll list these and see if we have the different kinds of activities and whether they're all here. Acting as a broker to refer requests to appropriate agencies, best practices, etc. Agricultural development, farmland protection. Completing the Greenway Trail is defined in the original legislation because we had that discussion. So this is a chance to talk about whether that stays or goes. regional trails development, and that's a little different. It's doing trails, but they may not culminate in the Greenway Trail. Convening stakeholders to discuss regional issues, GIS mapping of Hudson River Valley scenic resources, heritage interpretation programs, path through history, the Ramble, development of the natural heritage area website and collateral material, planning for climate resiliency, providing catalytic grant funding for Greenway-related activities, providing outreach to localities, local organizations to engage them in regional initiatives, providing technical assistance to localities and organizations. And this isn't referral now, this is actually working with them to do technical assistance. Putting together interpretive presentations, packages of historic events and or heritage sites, including the training. Regional planning, the Greenway Compact process, regional trails development. That's listed twice. I'm sorry, that should have been deleted there, and it wasn't. And then water trail development, and then others. You know, so the question is, as you look at this, are there others that should be listed? Because I tried to make this as pretty broad a list as possible.
I peaked.
Okay, well, that's all right. Well, we take off a few points for that.
Regional trails is on there twice.
Yes, and I just noted that.
I found it hard looking at this to distinguish the various heritage areas, and there's heritage in terms of programs, heritage website, heritage presentations.
All right, the
I'm quite sure what was like the key word that would distinguish those.
okay, yeah, sure. Let's go. Heritage interpretation programs. That would be a particular theme or a particular site. You know, an interpretive, let's say, the revolution in the Hudson Valley. Or,
I was just wondering how this meshes with those three circles which we have to move into either the middle of the Venn diagram or between.
right, the committee, this is a similar exercise. It might, but this is the board and it's not a committee, so
It's also what's known as dots.
Right, yep. So anyway, let's go back to the heritage. There is the heritage interpretation programs. Then there's the website and collateral materials. So it's focusing on developing those heritage promotion materials as opposed to, let's say, a program. Is that right? That's an existing program. Putting together interpretive presentations and packages of historical events and heritage sites. All right, I see that. I'll tell you what, let's make a distinction at the last minute. Where it says heritage interpretation programs, make that training. Training for heritage interpretation, and the other one, putting together interpretive presentations, packages of historical events or heritage sites. Get rid of including training. So I think that will make those distinct. So there's sort of the website, there's training, and then there's the packaging.
Sorry, could you also, you tried to clarify providing outreach to localities versus providing technical assistance to localities.
Yeah, outreach to localities, you know, we're the Greenway, here's the sort of benefits you can get from the Greenway. You know, work with us. Technical assistance is, all right, we're going to show you now how to set up a transfer of development rights. Or, you know, historic preservation overlay. You know, that kind of technical assistance versus just outreach. Versus referral, which is, oh, if you want to do that kind of, if you want to do a biodiversity assessment, you can talk to the estuary program about that.
Well, then that's part of my question, that function very much overlaps with acting as broker on top, the first on the list.
Okay.
So we want to choose both of those as one more proactive.
Yeah. Yeah, one is receiving requests, and the other is actually initiating.
Yes, well, it makes sense to do it.
We could, if you want, we could combine those.
Yeah, it does seem like an artificial.
Okay.
Is broker providing outreach is just what you do.
Okay, so where it's acting as broker,
Yeah, providing outreach.
well, let's do providing outreach and get rid of acting as broker, because I want you to be clear about those.
But now, I think, just from my perspective,
Yeah.
about how we communicate about the program and public relations in terms of what we do and who we are. I think that public outreach is very different than the broker.
Yeah.
The broker is very much more specific.
Okay.
Doing outreach about either the Greenway principles or espousing a particular perspective on them.
Yeah, all right. So the broker function is different in that way.
I would see it as different because I think a lot about how we most effectively do that.
But wait a minute.
Yeah, it's the same. Well, in fact, acting as broker becomes almost a technical and technical system.
But it's a referral. It's not the actual technical
Well, the
system.
best practices I've had, I don't know, it's a sort of a would be nice if you had enough time sort of thing.
But let's keep it. We'll keep it. The broker role stays. And again, heritage interpretation program is training, putting together interpretive presentations and packages. Take the training out of that. The regional trail development is repeated, so it's only there once.
Water trail development, you should also add /operations/promotion, because we're moving into that phase of.
using the word development. Does development, you're talking about the planning process or actually developing the trails?
It's developing the trails.
Yeah, it's developing the trails, but we're also in the process of operating. We're putting forth websites and guidebooks, and we give people technical assistance when they want to do trips. So it's more than just one thing.
Okay, so then maybe we have to add an.
Just water trail. I mean, it's the water trail of primary, and we don't have to worry and micromanage what you're doing, but if the water trail is an integral part of what we do, I don't get further, I was just thinking of water trail.
So I thought what he was doing was helping get additional sites designated on it. And what he's saying is, what he's also doing is, he's promoting it, he's fielding calls from people who want to find out about it. That's different than just saying, stamp, that's designated, I'm done now.
Right. I thought that's what I was saying, was that it's a huge area that is, taking an enormous amount of staff's time. But I certainly don't have any understanding of all of the pieces of this that Scott needs to put together under something that's called the water trail. So,
But maybe he should do the designation and not all the other stuff.
It's a package, usually trails are almost a package deal. You can start someone on it and have them take it over. But you need to provide, and I know this is with the land trail, there is an aspect of education that you need to offer them. And I'm sure Scott has done this with the local community he's worked with on trying to get stuff. Okay, you need to take into account you have to have something, are you going to have overnight? If so, what about the porta potties? What about this? What about that? So it's almost a package, it's almost a package deal.
Yes, Steve.
It's the water trail program.
I just want to make sure that I understand the task mechanism.
Okay.
Which I sort of took to mean, all things being equal, what do we, from a policy conceptual perspective, say going forward, are the most important things for the Greenway to be advancing, and those things that are lower priority?
That's correct.
And presumably, if this comes together in a compelling strategic plan document, perhaps in places where everybody says it's a high priority, but there aren't enough resources now, more resources could be.
Right, then we can.
So we should just focus on what we think the Greenway should have as its priority.
Right, and shouldn't.
And who else isn't able to do it? What do we
Right. But not necessarily have to get caught up with whether or
At
not
this-
Scott has enough.
Right, yes, let's focus right on that, so we can get a sense of what are the things we should be doing. And then the second question, when we get down to the operations, all right, which of these things, what aspect of it can we do, what aspect do we have to leave alone? And given that is, then it comes back again, is it worth doing? So everybody ready to take a shot at this? And maybe you already have. So the idea is the ones that you see the highest priority for and the lowest, the ones that could, if they fell off the list, that's okay. Yes, right now. And think of it in terms of the discussion we just had, in terms of who and what the Greenway is. Yeah.
Anybody else? Yep. Are you going to do the whole thing? Yeah, just that page. That's all right. That's all right. You do 4 in each category. Only 4. Check only 4. Yes. Actually, there was somebody else who wrote it. Only the 4 most immediate. Yeah, I saw that. We can give it back to you.
Yeah.
Only 4. Bring that up again. Yeah, we're taking only 4. The 4 most important. It doesn't mean necessarily that the other things don't get done, but what are the most important? The question is, do we have agreement about the 4 most important? No, we're not ready for worksheet 2 yet. But we need to say what are the priorities in terms of who we are. And it's right.
That's what I think. But I don't think that it's clear because how we are. Because again, how, we do a lot of promotion, but not necessarily creating a program, doing hands-on, like reserving porta potties. Right? I don't know if that's certain porta potties. Right. But things that are time consuming that might be a catalyze others to do. It's tough.
Yes. We have. Can you start that one?
Yep, sure.
Yep. Do I have everybody? Sarah? Okay.
Peter.
So yeah, it's so hard. So everybody can get a drink of refreshments, have dessert, while we just take a few minutes to tally up these results. Because originally, this is where we were doing other things.
Give you some sense of how these things have shaken out in terms of, again, we asked people to have 4 most important, 4 least important. So are there any patterns? You can see what I've tried to do is the biggest vote getters in terms of the 4 most immediate. are in green. Those that got the least immediate, the biggest number of votes are in red. So you can see in terms of priorities, providing catalytic grant funding, so we got a 10 to nothing vote. That is, 10 people saw it as top of the list. Another 6 people saw the providing outreach to localities and local organizations to engage them. And the regional planning Greenway compact process was also among the top 3. So any thoughts about that? Any reactions, responses? 1, 2, 3. I could select the 4th one. Let's see. It would be the providing technical assistance to localities and organizations would be the 4th one. But you can see it doesn't have the same level of support. At least the others have slightly bigger numbers. So any thoughts about those? I mean, probably some of you, your favorite didn't make that list.
I'm just thinking, when I think about outreach to localities, and local organizations engaged in regional initiatives, I don't see that as what we go through. Because I think the paths for progress or even just the initiatives coming down from above on the county level, the state level, more or less semantics that we look at regional cooperation. I don't see how does the Greenway do outreach for that?
Well,
Our outreach in terms of newsletter, simply showing up and being a partner in different initiatives, it is something that we don't do well right now, but it's something that in the past has been a big part of
yes,
In our previous discussions, which many of the voters here were probably a part of, and not all of the people, was that we saw the Greenway as a convener on many levels, whether it was website development, having people wear heritage sites, or art trail. So it was convener in a broader sense, and that outreach was not just bringing people together physically. So I think that's the way I understood the role of outreach.
okay.
I see it in the plan, but I'm just saying, I don't see that as a standalone that we have really been active in.
Well, another example of outreach, sort of nesting with other programs, Hudson and Greenway.
Right.
And through that one program, we connect with annually with one organization. But that's
But the
it's
annual
a
summit.
event, but it's part of how we.
Yeah,
I'm
and
not saying that.
well, let's.
It surprises me to see it coming up as a big thing for us.
Let me recast that, because really this is it important? Providing outreach to local communities, is that an important function for this organization to take on? And it's sort of showing up and saying, here's who we are and what we do.
There's a fine distinction between providing outreach communities and technical assistance communities.
Mm-hmm.
You put those together, it's done, So I think to me those are very similar. Well, I think if you take the regional initiatives out of there and you say providing outreach to localities and local organizations, that's more what people are beyond.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
That word regional initiatives was the key word.
I think to put a finer point on it, since we're not regulatory, we have to sell. We're a sales organization. I think that outreach just says, we need to sell. You need to sell and sell.
Well, how do people feel about that? That this organization needs to sell? Let's rephrase it.
Yes.
Needs to sell itself? Okay. And is that a priority?
Should be.
I see. Yes?
Yes.
Anybody think it's not a priority? We'll do that.
Are we talking about selling itself or selling planning?
Selling the program and the benefits it offers. Basically saying, remember us, we're the Greenway. We do these things. And we can help you with this stuff.
I'm a little concerned to see agriculture on the 104.
Okay.
Just because that was such a huge part of our original mission. And that was a way
So it lessens.
That makes me feel better.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's so much happening, not only here throughout the country, that we don't have to deal with that. We have a lot of other big issues to deal with. But all these other great organizations do. They're doing it, they are, they're doing it well. It's amazing how they do it.
Yeah, Kevin?
I was going to say, that, ultimately, the goal we all share is we want to have impact. That's the most important thing, what impact means. And so you have to then work backwards. How can you impact things given the resources and staffing we have? And so to me, the priorities have to be formulated in such a way that they can actually be accomplished and can be accomplished with a small staff. So in other words, one person can't possibly do things that are disparate. It's too hard. Think about your own job. You have to do things that complement one another. So, for example, planning and outreach and funding, they're all about trying to make an impact on a local level and stimulating greater applications, funding opportunities, and through them making an impact. So to me, it's like the priorities have to be related. They can't be too diffuse. Otherwise, you can't make the impact. Because you ultimately have to have people doing it, staff.
Right. Yes, Jane?
Is the leveraging of the outreach, all of those, the two top ones, the three top ones that are there, is how they leverage is what is important. And those are all interrelated. And trying to pick between some of those was really difficult, which is back again to the facilitation. And when you try to get more staff for you, it's the leveraging. Just think of how economic people will say, all right, state parks, for every dollar spent here, it's $5 more, goes into the local economy, it circles around again. We need that kind of figure as to how these small grants have made a difference in the community.
Okay, yes.
The thing that concerns, I guess it's a question for me is that, these all seem to be highly related to the Greenway, and yet there's a whole other entity called the Heritage Area, which gets all the funding now. What is that saying about what we think about this huge piece of what the greater Greenway is doing? Not one of those was listed as a top priority.
Yeah, because again, that's where the money is.
I think maybe I have the answer to that. I checked all the ones that got the high road there. And because they're very fundamental to what the Greenway was all about many years ago. And that makes me sad, because as an organization, we should be growing, there should be new initiatives, new ideas, and we don't have, other than, national heritage, where there is money. I felt, well, that's going to do well, because the money's there to do that. But we don't have the money, we don't have the capacity to do what an organization should be doing to grow. There's no growth here. And and it's sad that we're missing that, and that's what we have to try and change.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Those are the fundamental things we did 20 years ago. We'll check them off again.
But you can't, to be realistic, you can't meet all these goals while providing, for example, technical assistance. That is such a time suck. Think about that from an employee's workday. Technical assistance? That's phone calls, emails, responding, getting something. Gotta get the call back. Have a conference call. How are you then going to stretch? You can't. So you have to do things, again, we have to be in the realm of reality here. What is possible to make the greatest impact? So to me, it's the facilitating is the part where we're really good at. We have the meetings 4 times a year, we gather good speakers, we're good there, and that's probably not as heavy a lift because it's 4 times a year, right? But the day-to-day work technical assistance to me is, that's to me a dead end. I don't think that's useful at all.
Under current staffing.
Under current staffing.
Yeah.
Whereas I agree with Sarah, the heritage is a great growth opportunity, which is why I try to find in my own a way to express that, whether it be through PR, if that's where we can. That's partly hearing from our staff, but where can we have the greatest impact in the heritage? Is it the communications tools? Is it the training tools, or is it our events? But it's one of those we have to focus on.
Okay.
Okay, one of the things you have to worry about is mission drift. And if you're on not that the sometimes the money comes in the area, and when do you say no to money when it doesn't fit your mission or doesn't fit what you really want to do? The money has come in from the National Heritage Area. It's slated to go away, correct? And
Not necessarily.
not necessarily. Okay. So how do you leverage that comes in from the heritage into the other things that we're supposed to do? Can we leverage it into trails? Can we leverage it into water trails? You know, the outreach to the various communities so that it's funneled into where we would like to succeed, where we know the values. All they're saying, helping the local community takes the money, what limited resources we have, and expands it. Is that correct, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd also like to build on Kevin's point about staffing and impact, because that's the filter that I use to look at any project that we work on. But I just want to talk about the evolution of what we consider technical assistance and how we've tried to still continue that with our limited staffing. So technical assistance used to be really hands-on and direct. Staff would call and participate. And now we've evolved into a model of a much more partnership-driven technical assistance model. If there's an opportunity where an organization wants to provide trail training, we become a sponsor and not involved. If there's an opportunity where an organization wants to planet, we become a sponsor and part of that. So it's often indirect, but still we have the opportunity to get our brand out there, talk a little bit about principles in this class, while not taking a lot of time with this. In terms of the differences between the Greenway and the Heritage Area, I look at the Heritage Area resources as being very flexible.
Can you take more of it?
Well, if we say that that's a pot of money that's available potentially for staff, right? That staff member is not going to be exclusively working on a heritage tourism. They can be working on a whole host of other things. And the idea of the heritage area is very closely tied to the idea of the Greenway. To say that the heritage area is about telling the story of Hudson, about getting historic sites together, but it was also the other side of the coin, which was mentioned in the research. Talked about the Greenway, the idea of building working with communities. So traditionally, we've approached the heritage area as this narrow definition of what we can do in Hudson. But I see it, and we do it now because the heritage area funds pays for staff salaries. Those lines are very much further, and I don't see it as being very restrictive.
I guess I would just, I'm not sure if I'm formulating this, but I guess wearing the heritage hat, I would just say that I would hope that whatever resources we are using that was part of the heritage is maybe taking the, the concept of building collaboration, and synergies that is a Greenway principle, but applying them to things that will really help heritage. So it's not so blurred that then the staff is just working on regional planning, but that there is still focus on heritage, using the principles like that, or that coalescing, what is one of your words, of being a facilitator, but there is a real pocket of facilitating heritage areas coming together, cultural tourism coming together. I still see that as a critical role, but I don't know if there's a will on the part of, if that is sensed as a critical part by the board for this agreement.
Yeah, I would say for me, the reason why I was interested in doing the Greenway in the first place was the national heritage area. So, and I think that if you think about it, experience what Mark is saying, the Hudson River Valley as a national heritage area is maybe our greatest opportunity to formulate a regional identity. In other words, I don't like it, my little talk about that I'm on this board, it's the Greenway, but when we're charged with the national heritage area, it helps to seal the idea of a regional identity. It is a national heritage area. So to me, if you think expansively about it, it is one of our greatest opportunities to do all the things we do well to help to create regional partnerships, interlocal initiatives, because people are working towards that goal of having that identity, which is very different than
The other, I always say this, the other directions from New York City, Long Island, New Jersey, and Hudson Valley, what distinguishes Hudson Valley? It's national heritage area. It's very different. You see what I'm saying?
But without the planning and things like that, a lot of the national heritage stuff would all be gone. Because I know in Detroit, in the 60s and 70s, they were going to tear everything down. It wasn't for people saying, stop, don't do it. You need to have the local governments have their plans and say, wait, this is an important thing. This is an important thing. What are we going to do to take care of it? Mark helps bring local government, the local communities understand these things because of some of the things that Mark brings. That's like, so you need to have that partnership. You need to identify the heritage areas and things like that. And it's nice icing on the cake, but you also need to have the base work, which still needs to be done in a lot. I mean, Dutchess County is nice, Ulster County is nice, but there's a lot of other prisons that don't have that base work done yet.
Let me take Jennifer, I want to add something about the heritage stuff.
Yeah, I just want to say, I agree with Kevin in the sense of not just the identity of it, but that heritage shouldn't be viewed as somehow dichotomous from planning. Indeed, planning should be about the value of our assets and how we utilize them in so many ways. So just because the compact is about so many other things, and the Greenway principles are about so many other things, heritage is in a sense what binds and defines the vision to a great extent. So I have to say, I don't think we should create a false dichotomy. That's all I'm going
You know, I'm going to add an observation. I didn't have it, but I spent Monday and Tuesday in Corning, New York, around police work. And one of the things that strikes me every time I do work out of the area, especially in small towns, when you go to small towns to the west, like I'm doing a housing strategy, and I can sum up the housing situation in Corning in 2 phrases: mill worker housing and mansions. Period. That's all there is of it. Because their history starts like 1830. And whereas you're working in the Hudson Valley, it's a lot. There's stuff underneath that. Like if you go, and there are a lot of towns in Western New York, and they're wonderful places. I don't mean to say be disparaging about it, but they're new places. They don't have the heritage that this area has, and they tend to be mill workers housing and mansions. And there's nothing else. And even our mill towns, there's other stuff underneath the mill workers housing around it. So heritage, I completely endorse that idea. Planning in the Hudson Valley is all about heritage, but you can't do it because that's what it is. That's the truth about the Hudson Valley is this heritage. So I just have to sort of step back and endorse that concept.
The fact that there were a number of areas that could have been checked off that have to do with heritage, but that they weren't, doesn't that tell us something?
Yeah.
That's, that the higher priority is just planning as a whole, and heritage might be a subset of it. But I guess the other argument is if you don't really focus, like we're maybe the only entity that can focus on the heritage of the entire Hudson Valley. And if we don't focus on it, then people won't even know that it's important when they think of planning. Yeah, it's great to plan, but if they don't know there's much of heritage, then why do they save those places in Troy?
Yeah, but it needs to go hand in hand. It definitely needs to go hand in hand. And there's nothing like identification, and maybe that's the thing that you need more of an identification of the heritage. I mean, it's like we do have a heritage plan, but there's more stuff out there that, and maybe also people don't have copies of the heritage plan or anything like that either, so that may not help them either. But I think you gotta put the planning, but you also have to put, the planning has to include the heritage. I mean, it's like everything has to work together. So not different things, off the trails and things like that. They have to work together.
I think as we're doing the strategic plan, the voice that you got the National Heritage Area designated for this region, I think we had bigger staff. And my thought was, wow, this is something that we will get more funding to administer that will be outside of what the Greenway is already doing. And in fact, as the budget for the Greenway has shrunk, this has been sort of added
see the work of the heritage area fitting within those three categories. I mean, very broadly, it's a regional project, a regional focus, trying to knit together communities and sites as a region with great regional identity. I also think that the two elements, well, there's flexibility, but I'm not saying it's exclusive to using the heritage area funding on Greenways. But I think they both fit very well together because for me, the Greenway planning elements are about helping communities make very local decisions from a regional perspective. And the heritage area is way on the other side of the spectrum of getting people to care about the region, understand its history. So those very small planning decisions made at the local level, but also the idea of getting people to care about the region. And I think that's a really powerful idea that gets to the core of the Greenway, even when its original idea is all.
I don't really understand the structure of the National Heritage Area. So, I mean, I think that's why I was reluctant. I don't know if there's some other agency out there that is helping you do all this, or if you're it.
No, we're both, as the Greenway's partnership driven as that area. I think from a staff perspective, the money that the heritage area offers presents an opportunity. And as we prioritize what the Greenway is going to be working on, I think we can look at that money relatively flexible.
I just mentioned too that when you make the case to your state representatives about the Greenway anyway, one of the items that you bring up is the fact that if it doesn't continue, then we don't have access to these federal funds. So it does boil down to money.
I was also just going to make that point building on what Mark was saying. It would be interesting to do a survey of Hudson Valley right now and just figure out the percentage of people who realize they live in a national heritage area. I bet it's low. I wouldn't believe it. We probably want to believe it. And if the Greenway could turn that upside down, if that became one of its mission or priorities, to make that 80% of people know live in a national heritage area, I bet you would see the Greenway principles become more embedded. In other words, having just that conception of where you live, that it's a national heritage area, it's important. It's like living near Bunker Hill or Gettysburg. It's that important. People, if they absorb that, as kind of, and we are effective in this, who else is going to communicate that with us? That we are that. If we succeed in doing that as a kind of communications tool, and so I see it, emotional communications, I think it will actually foster these events. It'll make them easier to accomplish.
And I think that fits into the Planning Federation training program, because the local planners have to know that it exists, so when they're making their decisions, it's part of the rationale as to why they may be asking for certain things or why.
Yeah, that could be the niche in terms of that planning training. is
Correct.
heritage.
And maybe that's the one that you could idea.
In other words,
So just want to put my attention for that.
sure.
Open space, seems like that's a priority. We're talking about, you have the historic sites, obviously. But, agriculture, as the population's been coming into the region, and again, you seem to be saying that was slowing. Agricultural land was gobbled up in that flow. So I think, again, it should be discounted because it's the easiest way to retain open space by Department of Protection. So I just want to put on this a little higher.
That I had a question. I think it was dealt with a little bit in one of the prior discussions, but I know one there that says continuing the Greenway Trail is defined in the original legislation. That's not for food supporting Regional 12, but much like, I guess
other people who can do it, and with the regional trails and the completing the Greenway Trail, I think we have to look at it closely. It can tie into the heritage area, because you can say to people, okay, you can travel from A to B and you can stop off at some sites, because now we have the power of this. We didn't have when we first started it. So I think it's a case of maybe looking at how to do the trail and where the access points are. And Westchester's put a lot of money into doing this.
What I didn't know is, Steve, maybe you would know the answer to this, is whether or not with the rezoning, the recent rezonings that New Jersey's doing with all of its waterfront redevelopment, whether there's an incorporated trail along the edge of that. Because I know it's something that again, I still feel that that's why, and again, my perspective, that why it needs to still have a strong and vocal component to having that trail-wide access along that.
Steve? So I've been sort of struggling with this whole conversation, and I'm not sure if it's because we're trying to think about what are the priorities for the staff to work on a daily basis, or what are the sort of directional themes and priorities for the organization to advance, and then the staff develops the best strategies to accomplish those. And I find the sort of argument for the heritage area to be in some way an overarching theme or a construct within which the Greenway is work to make a lot of sense because of the fact that the Greenway is the manager of the heritage area and nothing else. But I think it's really important to think the heritage area means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So to some people it's about specific historic sites, to some people it's about the whole sort of heritage fabric, which would bring in agriculture and the role that it has played traditionally in shaping the mix of land uses and so many different things. So so I'm still somewhat confused, or struggling. But I think at least I thought this discussion was more about the directional themes as opposed to, again, this sort of what the staff would be having to work with.
Yeah, I think that's right. The other thing, what showed up in the top three are the three F's again, in terms of facilitating, funding, and fostering. That's almost a restatement of those. I think there's some consistency there. I don't know whether it necessarily means it's the right answer, but it does, it suggests an approach. And it's well, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. But, in terms of, I see a strategic approach emerging out of this. And then, the heritage theme can be incorporated in that and can infuse that. But, the approach is to really look, maintaining capital grant money, get out, into the community and foster the compact process. And, other things happen. For example, it could still be that there's a long-term commitment, 20 years out, to get the trail done. But, is that something we're to get done in the next 3 years? No. But it's, it's still out there as kind of an aspirational goal. So, and then, I think the others, it's pretty clear, I think, sort of what things that aren't going to be, and I think why. Same thing with resiliency. There are a lot of folks out there now that are working on resiliency. And then certainly that's a partnership opportunity, but it doesn't necessarily has to be something that's a priority.
Yeah, first, besides echoing what Steve said, which is the exact question I was asking, thank you. Was the question of partnership that came up in the last round because of, for instance, your partnership with the expert program, the research reserve, the potential partnerships with other agencies that are carrying out the mission in another way. Are we going to get that at all? So that's about leveraging, in a sense, what we do and what is greater heritage, planning federation. Are you talking about that at all? Or at least what strategic guidelines there would be for partnerships?
Well, I would see these as sort of setting those guidelines.
Okay, all right.
others on the list, but we were comparing apples to oranges. And it's almost like, well, you can put the path of history is like the ramble, okay, and then it's focusing on what we do and how, it's the end result. So I almost wish we had a different site, a different list, we look at some of the top level, the big picture, the bird's eye view of what we're doing.
Well, see, I think what this does get, I mean, first of all, the strategic planning is all about the bird's eye.
Yes.
And the reason I went through this exercise to see what would come out in terms of the bird's eye view and how people respond. And again, I think there's enough here to give me a sense that this is, when that notion of the 3 F's is really sort of to the heart of what this organization is going to do. And again, it might be in the context of the heritage area, but it's looking at forwarding fostering the Greenway principles, funding, and facilitating. I mean, any strong disagreement with that? Because and there's another one to flip it around. The question is, all right, why are we doing the ramble? And it comes back to one of the 3 F's, maybe. And ultimately, now you can start asking the question, all right, should that be a long-term priority? Because are we getting a return on any of those F's that we make? So the strategy now creates a way to think about those initiatives now.
I guess if we make the ramble fundraising almost activity.
Right. Right. Then you've got a different rationale.
And I guess some of those should be subsets under the higher categories, because I don't want them to us saying 10 years or 20 years from now. First of all, I'm not going to be around them. I want to see them happen sooner. So I think that as subsets, they may not have the high priority, but they'll be part of the planning process.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay.
I think that's right. All this, for example, all this stuff in the blue doesn't mean it goes away, and it could be subsumed as part of the planning process. But this was just to say, all right, what's the stuff that matters most to you? That's really what this exercise was about.
So when I think of the 3 F's, to me that's exactly what I do. What distinguishes what I do from what Greenway does is the content. They're doing the Greenway compacts and the principles. We're not doing that. They're doing the trail. We're not doing it. And so on. So to me, I think those are words that kind of give you a flavor of the neutral space. But to me, what really has to come forward is, what you do, not how you do it.
Well, we can go back to that slide, but it's about promoting quality of life in Hudson Valley and bringing together all those partnerships. That's what the Greenway does. It involves economic development, it involves heritage, and it involves public access. So it's a different set of activities than the estuary program. But there's the scientific programs aren't there. The technical assistance isn't there. But you guys do a lot of technical assistance that the Greenway doesn't do. So that that there's a difference. I mean, there's some.
I don't want to focus so much on the estuary versus Greenway. What I really want to focus on is, I think by focusing on the 3 F's, you actually lose the focus on the content. To me, what's really important is to, as part of the strategic plan, say, these are the things that, when we're trying to achieve this regional quality of life, the structures we have that are unique, or we have this trail that everybody can become part of, that's already like halfway there.
think that the substance and the approach are linked. And I think that's, you know, that's what the strategic plan will do then.
Yeah, I would just echo both of those together. That you can't just be talking about the process without the content as well. To the extent you're sort of providing reassurance that the content gets woven in with it.
Yeah, I mean, because the first part of that discussion before we got to the 3Fs was about the content. In fact, there's this broad content that includes everything from economic development to heritage to river access to recreation. You know, how do we deal with all of that stuff? Well, we deal with it through the 3Fs. That's how we do it. And it's, you know, it's a partnership-based program. The Greenway, you know, and maybe in the Greenway, the facilitation is the first. You know, it's the first step, and others that are better endowed funding might be the first step. But you know, that's.
I was just going to say that, you know, for someone like Hudson, I don't want to at all. My sense is for people like him, or for Mari, for that matter, who is here, the idea of the Greenway and the National Heritage Area were one of the same. That they conceive of Hudson Valley as being exceptional or special in certain ways, and they wanted to protect it and preserve it, and they wanted to make better, you know, foster better planning choices, and they wanted to, you know, to just create a better place. And so the construction they came up with were not going to be manual. They were smart. They knew that. You couldn't require people to do certain things. So that's where the facilitation comes in, the fostering. It's a soft touch. It's soft diplomacy. It's really what we are. And so to me, the 3Fs are important in terms of our temperament, our approach. It's a kind of soft diplomacy. But the what's are these you know, preserving, promoting. And if we had to boil it down to one thing to do, it's really to promote. Promote these ideas, promote Hudson Valley as a place, promote the idea of preserving it. It's all the same. So if you ask Barney or Maurice Century, I think they would see Heritage Area Greenway as one and the same. It's the idea that the valley has to be kept this way. It's special. It needs to be this and remain this way. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the original enabling legislation, the Conservancy was created to establish the Greenway Trail, the Hudson River Valley Trail, to promote the Hudson River Valley as a single tourism destination and preservation of agriculture. So those are things that are not rated very high anymore. And so the question is it because we've done them so well that we're moving on? Or is it that, I mean, I feel slightly defeated in trying to get the interest of my state legislative budgetary people to see those as a priority if they want to work. And if you look at the trail, I mean, if you combine the two different ones, we do get the 5, so we would take the top 4. And I think that if we just remember the point of the trail was like the Appalachian Trail and the Long Trail, that it can be a destination from which all the historic, artistic, and other benefits flow. I mean, you know, if you're doing the trail, you stay along the trail and you take day trips. And the flip side of this tough economy is that more people are doing staycations, right? So, you know, if we can get our trail completed and promoted as the gateway, all of the other things in this heritage area, then I think it will do what the original vision was.
Yeah,
I was going to say, I don't think this says that the Greenway won't be doing supporting the trail. I think through the grants and through the outreach, it helps others to do the trail. But I think what it's saying is the Greenway staff itself is not out there directly doing the trail itself.
So are other organizations putting, I mean, the point of the Public Benefit Corporation was that we knew that there would be pockets along the Hudson River where it might be tricky to persuade landowners to gain access. And there was some possibility of the Public Benefit Corporation to actually raise money and do acquisitions. And so is there a vacancy in some of that?
discussion, I mean, not that the Greenway alone is responsible for it, but Poughkeepsie, that there's, the zoning includes trail development as part of the zoning. And I think some of that comes back to the work of the Greenway.
It's sort of like what Sally was saying earlier, that it's become inculcated
Right.
into the fibers of
But
being.
there's a difference between the theory and the implementation of opposition. And so the opposition can occur without the help of the Greenway to fill in the missing pieces of the trail. That's news to me. It's very good news, but I wasn't aware that was possible.
I see look at the Hyde Park Trail, right? So that's happening with the Winnicke Land Trust and the National Park Service and the Town of Hyde Park Recreation Department and the City of Hudson and over a number of state parks. And over a number of years, that's sort of coming into play. And my guess is that somewhere along the line, Greenway made a grant to Winnicke or the town or somebody to do
They keep
plan.
making it.
Right?
And the city
Plan for
Hudson.
that.
And grants just about everybody on that list.
And the rail trail networks, and so I think the answer is yes. And that the most efficient and effective way the Greenway can participate is through grants and providing information that allows the other groups to.
We have to make sure that we forget about the trail. When the city of Troy was one of the first Greenway grantees, they had the waterfront trail planned out. Well, in the last few years, they decided not to run the waterfront trail in South Troy along the waterfront, but put it inland a quarter of a mile on the roadways because it's easier. So we just got to make sure that we don't lose focus on that. If we don't, if it sort of drops off or something, it will fall off. At least, I mean, down here, you start having something and then people are into it. But in other places, you don't have that much on there. There are issues where you still have to put some kind of a little bit of emphasis on it.
We're going to take two more, and then we'll do Jennifer, then Sally, and I guess Nate, and then we're going to move on.
I still think this conversation is confusing the concepts of what and how, or I think our values, our principles, our, what specifically important. I think any of that is off the table. And this was just meant to focus on the way we do it, and I'm not saying that it shouldn't be about the content. Of course it's about the content. I just think that this discussion was meant to get us into the strategic direction, right? So I don't think, I think they're not mutually exclusive. We talk about them as if they are. I don't think we need to.
I want to just go back to the trail thing. In Rhinebeck, Miranda, we have a 20-mile trail, and Steve worked with Winnicke on designing this on-road bike trail. And hers designated Greenway. And after a couple of years, I went up to Greenway, and I asked for money so we could put a sign up under the signage that we have directing people along these 20 miles that said a National Greenway Trail. And that is, this is 20 miles of trail, there's 100 signs that are up there, and it's identifying the Greenway. And I think if this could be repeated, and this is what we should be promoting, is name recognition, getting credit for the things that anyone is doing. And I think, we make it an amazing difference. That's amazing. It's just almost the opposite of Sally's. We want the recognition of the kind of sign up. There are many who don't care to put something up like that. Okay? Why isn't Westchester into getting designations? And although you get Brownie Point to be a compact community, you apply for a trail grant, very often you can't be a trail if you aren't already a trail on the trail grants. And I think the designation needs to be thought, or in the context of what benefit is it to a community to have this, what can the Greenway
exercise of the day, because I know we can do it. We all want to do this for another 5 or 6 hours, I'm sure. But, you know, eventually there's going to be a strategic plan. Believe it or not, I believe it is. There will be. Now, one of the important questions to ask then is the role of the board, because we had talked about the idea, is this an under-engaged board? So your last worksheet, I mean, we're not going to collect these, but you can fill these out, or you can use it as an opportunity to think about this. What are the 2 most important things that members of the boards need to do to further the Greenway strategic plan? You know, it could be anything from, you know, talking it up with your town supervisor to approaching the MacArthur Foundation for a Genius Award. Somewhere in that spectrum, you know, what are the things that you folks need to do to move this forward at the end of the day, thinking about implementation?
And one of the things being changing acting executive director. When does that change?
Well, that's noted, and that will be in the plan. We need to do that. So let's talk about, you know, and it might be advocacy.
Oh, my pleasure.
What are the things?
Yeah, we get it. Oh, my pleasure.
Just take a couple minutes and just then report back. What are the things that need to do? The board members need to do.
I'd like to see us exercise our ability to raise funds. A lot of us are well-connected, if not always well-heeled, but a lot of us know how we could potentially bring some deeper opportunities. And we have that in our charter.
I'd like to see how we can increase, get the board more engaged, okay? Attendance, please and realize that there are very busy people who agree to be on it, but if you agree to be on the board, you should at least show up. I don't know if there's some people who never show up, and agree to be on the board. And I found this session extremely productive. I've increased my awareness. I've been involved with Greenway for a long time. And getting to know some of the board members, because we've had this discussion. Granted, the meetings are only 2 hours, and some of that sometimes, the quality of speakers definitely improve what we're presenting. But I think that engaging the board members is really important. Whether it's fundraising, the opinion aspect of how you want to be involved.
Sarah?
I think we can do more work on serving as ambassadors and promoters. We use that word in our own communities for the Greenway principles. I certainly know that my county, Columbia County, is in desperate need, and I know I could be doing more of that translate elsewhere.
And serve the ambassadors for Greenway principles.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think maybe one of the challenges with this question is there's 2 sides of it. I think to make the board more active is going to require something more of the staff, and that's really a limited resource. But I think a sense of board members having a fiduciary responsibility, like you're a member of any other board, and that needs to be nurtured. And but if something could be created along the lines of some combination of orientation for new board members, and maybe that can be done by existing board members, so the staff wouldn't have to do it. And maybe one of the meetings could actually be dedicated to Greenway board development. How could board members promote projects in their communities? How could they do these different things? So that it's focused on the board and not the outside world.
The fiduciary responsibility, does that mean fundraising or just financial?
I was thinking of it more or sort of responsibility and accountability to the organization.
Okay, kind of, yeah, the due diligence.
I think, they work sort of for us with the council or whatever, and it's our job to assist them where and when we can. And it's like, I mean, like, hopefully Margie knows if you need help from Hudson County, whatever, pick up the phone. And then I'm quite sure everybody else around here, we all have our connections or whatever, and hopefully they will do the outreach, but we should make sure that they know that they can do that.
Okay. So we've got raise money, some to increase engagement, serve as ambassadors for the principals, exercise fiduciary responsibility, assist staff by providing access to connections. Any other?
I'm just wondering how active we could or should be lobbying to develop those champions that we were talking about, on a congressional or on a state level. Do we just hope that our representatives support us, or do we get active and go to meeting with them?
So to work to build support at the state level
Yeah.
and federal.
Yeah.
So what do people think that is a board role?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Advocacy and education.
So in that case, we would want to have, discussions on that about what message we want to take, and we should approach people to meet with the various representatives. So that would take some work on our part as a board.
Yes.
Building on that, people would feel comfortable to approach legislators and to do an advocacy work, there would be an element of training that should go on. You tag team with somebody who's experienced in doing and talking and then building from there. It's not so much going on lobby day on the state legislature. How do you nurture those that are really local to you?
I recognize the legal room voters, we get people in that, well, the board members, how you go about it.
So I would add letters to the editor. My daughter is a lobbyist for the Alaska Wilderness League, and I'm one of their people who has to send these letters out to all the local dailies and weeklies. I said, what do you know? I don't think anybody cares about the Alaska Wildlife Refuge down there. I said, even if they know, congressional staff are reading those letters. And when you say something nice about Senator Gillibrand or Schumer in a letter to the Dixie Journal, they cut it out and they show it to the senator. I said, all right. So I sent these letters out. And I think if we could, any kind of member of the assembly does something to help our heritage area or Greenway, if we had a sort of board representative, and so that Mark only has to have one email to one of us, and it's our job to, craft the letter and contact every other board member and say, please thank Assemblyman Cahill for doing this good thing. That's a way that we can get recognition for the good things that are happening. Maybe, I don't want the staff to have to organize that they can just trickle it down to one of us. And Jeff was raising her hand.
Using social media to do that would be something we have underutilized. Because all of us I checked to see how many of you are on LinkedIn with me. And I don't see why we can't start with LinkedIn and Facebook sharing the news about Greenway with all the people who are our friends. It's just a very easy one and could be, something the staff helps us with.
The filter, I don't want to overstate this, but the federal delegation is a lot easier for me to engage directly than the number of state delegations, state representatives that we have. mean, the easiest way to do that is just put out a precedent, have a member of Congress there, and make sure something gets included. They love that. And they get the kind of recognition that helps them come to the table, so federal stuff. But in terms of my direct involvement with state legislators, my hands are tied because of my position and us being, or me being a representative of an executive agency. And those sensitivities still exist, I think, for the council board and the conservancy. So we need to think carefully about how we do that, and it can be, we need to think about, well, can that be an advocacy thing that happens, directly with legislators, or is it something that needs to happen more informally? I don't know the answer to that, but it's the sensitivity that needs to be.
What I was going to ask is, what's the source of your appropriations? Is it DC budget or Parks budget?
Separate.
So you guys are miscellaneous, like that?
We are miscellaneous.
And so again, so you have to be funded by the state because you're public benefit.
Well, the council gets money and the public benefit corporation gets money from the state. In a separate budget.
So you're in the executive budget, or the budget submitted, or you?
Yes, most years.
All right, so I think we've got a good sense in terms of the sorts of raising money possibly, greater engagement, serving as ambassadors to the community, fiduciary responsibility, assist staff, connections to make this happen, advocacy and education for state and federal champions, letters, advocacy for the Greenway, maybe using social media. So that gives us some guidance there. I think we're pretty much done. Oh, yeah, I know.
Right on time.
Is it right on time? But you're exhausted, right?
You deserve a hand.
All I did today was take credit for other people's ideas, which I'm happy to do. But
I have a question. Is there going to be some kind of cost analysis for?
You got like a business plan about how do we advance this? Yep, that's part of the deal. Any other thoughts, reactions, responses to this decision? Taken on the way out. This really was great. This was a great discussion. Very helpful. And I think we can see it reflected in the final product. And again, it's over about the next, where are we, March? So April, yeah, the next probably 6 weeks we're trying to get